Chapter 1393. Endless anger turned into a roar that resounded between heaven and earth. Clan leader. He waved his hand. Before Long Hang could speak, Long Di Tien had already said, "The forbidden power is invincible. His soul has already been destroyed by the forbidden power. No matter how angry Longao is, he can forget about leaving alive." Hearing this, Long Hang heaved a sigh of relief. Longao was too unpredictable. Even so, Long Hang was still a little emotional. Longao was just a small divine path cultivator. Back then, he had not even reached the so-called innate realm. He was such a small figure. Now, to kill him, they had to use the Long family and the Dragon Clan's final trump card, the forbidden power. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have believed it. Even if Longao died, he believed that his name would be known in the world. If such a talent could be included in the Long family, it would be impossible. It has begun. The forbidden power had just destroyed Bai Ling, and now it was attacking Longao with all its might. Everyone was excited because it was the first time they had seen such a powerful forbidden power. Longao did not give up. Accompanied by endless roars, he began to frantically counterattack the forbidden power. Was Longao stupid? Looking at Longao's crazy actions, everyone laughed. Counterattacking the forbidden power was like hitting a rock with an egg. It was completely suicidal. In the sky, Longao clenched his fists and frantically counterattacked. However, how could Longao's strength resist the forbidden power? In just a few seconds, Longao was already covered in wounds and bleeding from his 7 orifices. He looked extremely terrifying. In order to counterattack the forbidden power, Longao did not hesitate to use his blood essence and bloodline. Countless blood mist spurted out from Longao's body like boiling water, carrying anger, unwillingness, pain, despair, and even a trace of mutual destruction, like a moth flying into a flame. Longao's entire body was dyed red with blood. Even so, Longao was still hovering in the air, constantly fighting back against the forbidden power. Those who were laughing earlier all shut their mouths in this situation. All of them were watching the battle of the 9 heavens solemnly. Longao would rather die than submit. Such a person, no matter who it was, even if it was an enemy, would definitely be moved. Long Di Tien, Long Hang and the 9 Firmament's divine dragon also had serious expressions. In this battle, regardless of whether Longao lived or died, he believed that Longao was worthy of respect. If it were anyone else, they would have chosen to give up under such a powerful taboo energy. Only Longao would rather die than submit, and he continued to fight back against the taboo energy. With a punch, Longao's body once again exploded into a bloody mist. The taboo power opened its bloody mouth and roared madly at Longao. Everyone in the surroundings retreated once again. With heaven and earth as the guide and sword chi as the spirit, with my blood body, I will break the heaven and earth. Right at this moment. The moment Longao was killed by the taboo energy, a voice suddenly rang out between heaven and earth, rumbling and spreading to every inch of the place. A huge white vortex suddenly appeared in front of Longao. A woman in white stood in the middle of the vortex, like a sharp sword, piercing through the 9 heavens. Wasn't this the soul that had just been destroyed by the taboo energy? Wasn't this Bai Ling? Everyone, including Longao, was dumbfounded. But in the next moment, Longao already knew what Bai Ling wanted to do. It turned out that Bai Ling wasn't swallowed by the taboo energy just now. She was just preparing to help him avoid the attack of the taboo energy, so that he could leave the dragon race smoothly. White light flashed, and the dazzling white light enveloped Longao. The taboo energy was actually blocked. What happened? Everyone looked at the 9 heavens, and they were all dumbfounded. Because no one would have thought that the soul that had just fallen could actually resist the taboo energy. Was this for real? Boom! The dazzling white light and the taboo energy clashed together fiercely, letting out a resounding boom that shook the entire 9 heavens. The invincible taboo energy was rebounded back, and the white light enveloped the entire dragon race. Like a meteor shower, the white light rained down on the ground of the dragon race. Boom, boom, boom. In just a few short seconds, the entire dragon race seemed to have been robbed. If not for the fact that all the Nirvana state martial artists had joined forces to fight back, everyone from the dragon race would have fallen by now. With the help of the dazzling white light and the taboo energy, a gigantic tear was forcefully ripped open in midair. A dimensional tear. Looking at the black air currents that were being sucked in by the dimensional tear, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Long Di Tien and the Nine Firmaments god dragon could not help but shiver. That was because everyone knew what a dimensional tear meant. In front of a dimensional tear, no matter who it was, there was only death awaiting them. But under such circumstances, no one dared to make a move. It was like the end of the world. Everyone from the dragon race had not expected things to come to this. The dimensional tear covered the entire heavens and earth. In just a few short seconds, no one dared to make a single move. The dimensional tear was slowly fusing together. And just then, Longao's extremely cold voice rang out from within the dazzling white light. With my bloodline, I swear to the heavens and earth that as long as I don't exterminate the dragon race and the Long family, I'm not human. If I don't fulfill my blood oath, I'll be struck by lightning. Following the disappearance of the white light and the taboo energy, the entire heavens and earth returned to normal. What in the world had just happened? Everyone was dumbfounded. Until now, no one had reacted to the situation. Could it be that Longao had already left? Was that even possible? However, everyone had clearly heard the blood oath that Longao had made a moment ago. Even if everyone was unwilling to admit it in their hearts, everyone knew that Longao had indeed left. He had left under the influence of the taboo power. He had left under the influence of the experts of Long Clan and Dragon Clan. At this point, no one was willing to believe it. Longao's blood oath resounded throughout the heavens and earth. Even now, it was still ringing in everyone's ears. No one doubted the blood oath, because once Longao made the blood oath, it meant that Longao had to destroy the dragon race and the Long family. Otherwise, he would be struck by lightning. If one did not remove the roots, they would grow again when the spring breeze blew. Letting the tiger return to the mountain would leave behind future troubles. No one knew just how powerful Longao would become in the future. After suffering this loss, Longao would definitely go into hiding. In the Martial Heaven continent, trying to find traces of a single person in a sea of people was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Even the Long family and the dragon race were unable to do that. No one had thought that Longao would be able to leave in such a situation. It was inconceivable. Chapter 1394. The Great Battle of the Dragon Clan. The news of Longao snatching the Dragon Spring, fighting with the Dragon Clan, and the Long family, had already spread throughout the entire Sky Martial continent. It shook the world. Longao's name also shook the Sky Martial continent. The Dragon Clan and the Long family sent out all their experts, but they were still unable to kill Longao. Was that true? The Dragon Clan and the Long family used their trump card, the taboo power, but were still unable to kill Longao. Was that true? The news of Longao having the help of the Divine Soul had also spread throughout the Sky Martial continent. Even so, countless people still admired Longao. In this battle, Longao had actually won. The current Dragon Clan was in tatters. First, it was Longao's heaven-shaking sword, followed by the collision of the dazzling white light and the taboo power. Both times, the Dragon Clan had not been destroyed, which was a blessing in disguise. Even so, in this battle, the Long family and the Dragon Clan had suffered heavy losses. At least tens of thousands of people had died. As for Longao, whether he was alive or dead, no one knew. In the end, Longao swore a heaven and earth blood oath. Many people thought that Longao was still alive, but there were also many people who thought that Longao was dead. Under the taboo power, it would be difficult for Longao to escape with just him. But it was still the same. In this battle, regardless of whether Longao was alive or dead, Longao could be considered to have won. In the current Sky Martial continent, everyone was discussing the great battle of the Dragon Clan. 9 continents. Dragon Valley. The elegant courtyard was abnormally quiet. No one dared to enter the courtyard, even Long Hao Shi and Long Yi did not enter. The reason was simple. 3 days ago, Longao returned to the Dragon Valley with injuries all over his body. After handing the dragon spring over to Xiling, he immediately entered the courtyard. No matter who it was, they were not allowed to enter the courtyard without permission, otherwise they would be killed without mercy. Longao Shi and the rest were very clear. Even if they entered, they believed that Aoa would not make a move, but since Aoa had already said so, they did not want to disturb him. Everyone, including Longao Shi, Long Yi, and his wife, were waiting outside the courtyard. Their faces were filled with worry. Everyone already knew about the war between the Dragon Clan and the Dragon Clan. Until now, no one had recovered from the shock. Everyone in the Dragon Valley was very confident in Longao, but never would they have thought that he would be able to wreak havoc in the Dragon Tribe, draw out the forbidden power of the Dragon Tribe, and escape without a hitch. Everyone could see that Longao was seriously injured. However, what no one could guess was who was the one who saved Longao in the end. The white-clothed woman. In the courtyard. It was an elegant room with simple decorations. Longao, who was lying on the bed, slowly opened his eyes. His face was pale and his body was trembling slightly. Slowly, he sat up on the bed and looked at the surrounding walls. As if recalling something, his face turned even paler. It's not real. Longao hoped that everything that had happened 3 days ago was not real. Longao. Looking at the purple figure that suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao slowly raised his arm and waved his hand. Pain was written all over his weathered face. Longao slowly stood up. He looked like he was in extreme pain. In a flash, Longao's figure disappeared from the room. In the dragon seal space. On the huge white bed, a white-clothed woman was lying. The white-clothed woman was lying quietly like an ice beauty that had been sleeping for 10,000 years. She was very quiet and looked very beautiful. Coming to the bedside. Looking at Bai Ling, who was so close to him, Longao closed his eyes in pain. When he opened them again, his face was extremely pale. His body was on the verge of collapse and he almost fell. Tears flowed silently. Heartache. Endless heartache. Longao could not hold on any longer. He sat down on the bed and held Bai Ling's small hand tightly. He said in pain, "Bai Ling, why did you do this? You sacrificed yourself to save me." At this point, Longao could not continue. Long Fu and Xiling slowly walked over. Seeing Longao in this state, both of them sighed deeply. Longao. He waved his hand. Longao raised his head and looked at Long Fu and Xiling in front of him. He asked, "Is there any way to save Bai Ling?" How could Long Fu and Xiling not know what Longao meant? The two of them looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. If Bai Ling was at her peak, of course she would not be afraid of the forbidden power. However, with Bai Ling's current situation, it was impossible for her to resist the forbidden power. Bai Ling sacrificed herself for Longao. "Master," waving his hand again, Longao's voice was clearly cold. He said, "I just want to know what I should do to save Bai Ling. I don't want to hear anything else." Long Fu was a little dumbfounded. Master had never been like this for so long. Long Fu looked at Xiling. His meaning was very clear. With just one look, Longao understood that Long Fu did not have a way. He then looked at Xiling and said, "No matter the price, I have to save Bai Ling." Looking at Longao in front of him and his sister lying on the bed, Xiling sighed deeply and said helplessly, "If I didn't use the sword essence in the beginning, with my sister's strength, she wouldn't have fallen to this point." However, hearing this, Longao's face became even paler. "Longao, my sister has already swallowed the original body and condensed the sword realm. As long as the sword essence is not destroyed, she won't die. However, if you want to save her, there is only one way." "What way?" Hearing Xiling's words, Longao was delighted. According to Xiling's words, Bai Ling could still be saved. He could not wait to ask. "Longao, you should know my sisters and my identity. I just said that as long as the sword essence is not destroyed, she won't die. Therefore, if you want to wake her up, you have to strengthen the sword essence. According to the current situation, as long as you can find 2 things, you can save Bai Ling." "What things?" No matter what Bai Ling needed, he believed that Longao would get it, even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, or even if it was a narrow escape. The first thing is the spiritual pulse of heaven and earth. The second is the sword essence space. Spiritual pulse of heaven and earth. Sword essence space? Without waiting for Longao to speak, Xiling continued, if I'm not wrong, the sword sect should have the sword essence space. I believe that after the war with the Dragon Clan, Zhen Tian will value you more. When you enter the sword sect, you can enter the sword essence space. This is very simple. If that was the case, it would be much easier. Longao heaved a sigh of relief. Xiling, where can I find the spiritual pulse of heaven and earth? Longao had never heard of the spiritual pulse of heaven and earth. Looking at Xiling's serious face, Longao could imagine how difficult it was to find the spiritual pulse of heaven and earth. Otherwise, Xiling would not be so serious. Longao, I don't know where to find the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. However, I can tell you that once you find the spiritual vein of heaven and earth, not only will you be able to save Bai Ling, it will also be of great help to her recovery. Chapter 1395. He felt somewhat helpless. He was also somewhat disappointed. Even Xiling did not know where the heaven and earth spirit vein was. It was easier said than done to find it in the sea of people. Longao finally heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Bai Ling had not truly disappeared. He did not continue speaking. After leaving the dragon seal space, Longao roughly told his grandfather and parents about what had happened. Now that the sword world has been successfully set up, our Dragon Valley should be fine for 3 years. He nodded. This time, he had risked his life to obtain the Dragon Spring. It was all for the sake of successfully setting up the sword world. Xiling did not disappoint him. With the help of the Dragon Spring and the Dragon Jade, Xiling successfully set up the sword world. According to Xiling, once the sword world was set up, within 3 years, unless an expert at the peak of the martial path came, even Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon would not be able to enter the sword world. The family's matters could be said to have come to an end. What are you going to do next? Long Haosha and the others already knew about Bai Ling's matter. He thought about it. Grandfather, I'm preparing to leave Dragon Valley in a few days. Bai Ling is unconscious because of me. No matter what, I have to find the heaven and earth spirit vein. Long Haosha was not surprised at all. He knew his grandson very well. If Bai Ling could sacrifice herself for him, then Aoa could also sacrifice himself for Bai Ling. He was very gratified. It was enough to have such a grandson. However, Long Haosha was very worried. After the war with the dragon race, he believed that the Long family and the dragon race would not let his grandson go. If Aoa rashly entered the Sky Martial continent, there would be a lot of trouble. Aoa, this time, you have to be careful in the Sky Martial continent. Grandfather only hopes that you remember one thing. Think carefully about everything. Don't act rashly. Where there is life, there is hope. He nodded. How could Longao not know about his grandfather's worries? Grandfather, after I leave Dragon Valley, you have to speed up the family's cultivation. 1 year later, I will start attacking the dragon race and the Long family. 1 year. 1 year was neither long nor short. Long Haosha's expression was very grave. No matter what, the dragon tribe and the Long family were both very powerful. Even if the Dragon Valley was developing at a fast pace, was it possible to defeat the Long family and the Dragon Valley in a year? The battle of the Dragon Clan seemed to have caused great harm to Aoa. Aoa, is 1 year enough? That's enough. Since Long Ao had already said so, Long Haosha didn't say anything more. Grandpa. For the rest of the time, Long Ao and Long Haosha were talking about something. Tianwu continent. Yu Yin didn't know anything about the Dragon Clan's war from beginning to end. Yu Yin followed Hades to the west. She did not return to the Martial Artists Alliance. Hades knew very well that if he brought Yu Yin back to the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Zun and Tong Tiendi would not let Yu Yin go. Master, where exactly are we going? Yu Yin, you have only just started to comprehend the heaven and earth. If you want to increase your cultivation speed, There is only one way. That is to go to the Western region. There, I have a secret place that can help you. Western region? Hearing that her master wanted to bring her to the Western region, Yu Yin was a little unwilling. She had entered the Tianwu continent to look for Longao. If she went to the Western region, who knew how long it would take to find Longao? The Tianwu continent was divided into 5 major continents. They were the Eastern region continent, the Western region continent, the Southern Sea continent, the Northern Plains continent, and the Middle Tianwu continent. The Western region continent was a very valiant place. Under normal circumstances, other than the people of the Western region, very few people would go to the Western region. He seemed to be able to guess what Yu Yin was thinking. Hades thought for a moment and said, Yu Yin, I have already said that with your current strength, even if you find Longao, you will not be able to help him. Rather than that, you might as well use this time to cultivate. Before Yu Yin could say anything, Hades continued, the 5 Nirvana realms. Yu Yin, only when you have reached the true Nirvana realm can you summon the wind and summon the rain in the Tianwu continent. Only then can you truly help Longao. The 5 Nirvana realms, from the lowest to the highest, were comprehending the heaven and earth, unity of man, cycle multiplication, Nirvana, and rebirth. Nirvana and rebirth were the realms that Long Tian and the others had reached. How could Yu Yin not know what her master had said? Master, with my current situation, how long would it take for me to comprehend the heaven and earth and break through to the Nirvana realm? Yu Yin was very clear about her situation. Not only was it a matter of talent, her physique was also very special. Otherwise, she would not have been able to advance from a post-liminary realm warrior to a Nirvana realm warrior in such a short period of time. Even the first Tong Zun of the Martial Artists Alliance could not compare to such a cultivation speed. At least 3 years, at most 10 years. I believe that your cultivation will be able to break through to the Nirvana realm from comprehending the heaven and earth. Yu Yin, I only hope that you can break through the final bottleneck and achieve Nirvana and rebirth. At that time, unless the heavenly Tao descends, you will be the strongest warrior in the world. From the beginning to the end, Hades had never thought of letting Yu Yin break through to the peak realm of martial arts. This was because the most crucial part of breaking through from the Nirvana realm to the peak realm of martial arts, the origin energy, had been completely controlled by the heavenly Tao. No one could get it at all, including Long Tian and Tong Zun. If they could get it, Long Tian and the others would have already broken through to the peak realm of martial arts. At least 3 years, at most 10 years. Yu Yin did not continue to say anything. Since things had come to this point, she could only choose to follow her master to the Western region. She hoped that she could smoothly break through to the Nirvana realm. If she could achieve Nirvana and rebirth, that would be the best. Yu Yin had already agreed with Hades's words. Because she also knew that with her current strength, she could not help Longao to the greatest extent. After all, Longao's enemies were the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. Just as her master had said, if her cultivation could continuously break through and reach the so-called Nirvana realm, it would be more than enough to help Longao. Even if she was unwilling to do so, Yu Yin still chose to continue cultivating. Yu Yin continued to follow Hades. Because the Tianwu continent was very far from the Western region, even with their strength, it would take at least a few days to reach the Western region from the Tianwu continent. Especially under such circumstances, Yu Yin could not wait to reach the Western region. In the endless void, the sky was filled with twinkling stars. 2 figures were constantly flickering. In the blink of an eye, Hades and Yu Yin's figures had already disappeared into the boundless night. A few croaks of frogs sounded. A crescent moon hung high in the void. This was an ordinary night, but also an extraordinary night. Chapter 1396. Sky Martial Continent. Long Family. Inside the main hall, Long Di Tian, Heavenly Divine Dragon, Long Hang, and the others were all present. At this moment, the atmosphere in the main hall was rather heavy. Because of the great battle of the Dragon Clan, the losses to the Long family and the Dragon Clan were immeasurable. Patriarch, if the 2 old ancestors find out about this battle, how are we going to explain it? They were helpless. Currently, the primordial divine dragon and Long Tien were in seclusion and did not know about the great battle of the dragon clan. However, Long Hang and the others could completely predict that if the two old ancestors found out about this battle, would the two old ancestors let them off easily? In this battle, not only did the Long family and the dragon clan suffer heavy losses, their reputation was also ruined. How could the heavenly divine dragon and Long Di Tien not know what Long Hang meant? Their faces became even gloomier. The heavenly divine dragon and Long Di Tien looked at each other. They could see endless anger in each other's eyes, but more of it was disbelief. Until this moment, the two of them could not believe that Longao could escape from the taboo power. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not believe it even if they were beaten to death. It was truly inconceivable. The reason why Longao was able to leave this time was all because of the help of his soul. Big Brother is right. I never thought that the soul would sacrifice itself in order to help Longao leave. Whether it was Long Di Tien, the heavenly divine dragon, or the others, they all agreed that Bai Ling was dead for sure after resisting the taboo power. Without the help of his soul, Longao is already crippled. Now, everyone was certain that Longao was able to counterattack time and time again because of the power of his soul. With just Longao's strength alone, not to mention fighting against the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family, even if they casually sent out a supreme divine warrior, they could easily kill Longao. Patriarch, with the current situation, we must kill Longao as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the two old ancestors come out of seclusion, it will be difficult for us to explain. He nodded. Long Di Tien thought for a moment, then said, "You are right. Longao no longer has the help of his divine soul. Killing Longao is extremely easy. However, the most important thing right now is how are we going to find Longao?" The Sky Martial continent was filled with people. Trying to find a single person in the Sky Martial continent was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Everyone was almost certain that after the battle with the Dragon Clan, Longao would definitely go into hiding. Everyone present had a grave expression on their faces. "Big Brother, what should we do now?" What should he do? Long Di Tien's face was filled with helplessness. If he knew what to do, he wouldn't be sitting here feeling so depressed. He thought for a moment. "First Elder, give the order immediately. No matter what, we have to find Longao's whereabouts in the shortest time possible." "Patriarch, I have already given the order." Next. No one continued to speak, and the entire hall became quiet. The Long family had issued a kill order, searching everywhere for Longao's whereabouts, causing the entire Sky Martial continent to be in a state of turmoil. Under such circumstances, no one dared to provoke the Long family and the Dragon Clan. Long family and the Dragon Clan had suffered heavy losses in the War of the Dragon Clan. If nothing unexpected happened, the current Dragon Clan and the Long family could be said to be extremely angry, like an angry tiger. Who would be so bored as to touch the butt of an angry tiger? No one was curious about the anger of the Long family and the Dragon Clan. If the Long family and the Dragon Clan did not make a move, that would be strange. After the battle with the Dragon Clan, everyone admired Longao. On the contrary, everyone looked down on the Long family and the Dragon Clan. As one of the 10 pillars, and even using a taboo power, they were still unable to keep Longao. What did this mean? Even if Longao had the help of his divine soul, just this courage alone, how many people in the world could match up to him? The odds were against him. In the Sky Martial continent, everyone was certain that without the help of the divine soul, with Longao's current situation, it would be difficult for him to face the Long family and the Dragon Clan's pursuit. Humans were like that, especially in the Sky Martial continent, they respected the strong. In the Sky Martial continent, the strong were respected. Sky Martial continent. Sword Sect, in the Great Hall. Jian Tian, Murong Guena, and Yi Xian sat together in the Great Hall. The three of them were also in disbelief at Longao's actions. "I never thought that Longao would be able to draw out the Dragon Clan's taboo power and successfully leave." Yi Xian sighed, because he knew very well what the Dragon Clan's taboo power meant. If it was them, even if the old ancestor personally came, they would not be able to contend against the taboo power. The taboo power was a power unique to experts at the peak of the martial Dao. Long Di Tian smiled helplessly, and said with emotion, I also never thought that Longao would have such a powerful divine soul in his body. According to my guess, if there are no accidents, the divine soul in Longao's body should be in the Nirvana rebirth realm. Long Tian nodded in agreement, and said, Longao's divine soul has already been destroyed by the taboo power, it is already impossible for Longao to be here. As he said that, the three of them raised their heads at the same time and looked outside the great hall. The expressions of the three of them were very interesting, because the three of them already knew who had come. It was also because of this that the three of them found it hard to believe that Longao would choose to appear in the sword sect at this time. During the battle with the Dragon Clan, the Long family and the Dragon Clan had tried their best to find Longao's whereabouts, swearing to kill him even at the cost of their lives. Everyone thought that Longao would definitely hide in order to avoid the Long family and the Dragon Clan. After all, the divine soul in Longao's body had already been destroyed by the taboo power. How could Longao fight against the Long family and the Dragon Clan with just his strength alone? But what was the result? Not only did Longao not hide, he even appeared in the sword sect openly. If the Long family and the Dragon Clan knew about this, they would definitely blame the sword sect. Under such circumstances, offending the Long family and the Dragon Clan was a very unwise move. For a Longao, was it worth it to offend the Long family and the Dragon Clan? The three of them looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. On one side was Longao, and on the other side was the Long family and the Dragon Clan. How to choose was really a troublesome matter. If it was before the battle with the Dragon Clan, if they had to choose, Long Tian, Long Di Tian, and Long Di Tian would definitely choose the Long family and the Dragon Clan, and not the so-called Longao. Not to mention the three of them, no matter who it was, they would not hesitate to choose the Long family and the Dragon Clan. Both sides were not on the same level. But now, after the battle with the Dragon Clan, Longao's position in the hearts of the three people in the sword sect instantly rose. Under such circumstances, the three of them already had an answer in their hearts. Jian Tian smiled and said, since you're here, come in. The sword sect welcomes friends. Chapter 1397. The person who came was none other than Longao. Longao's purpose for coming was clear. He was here for the sword chi space. Looking at the young man who entered the hall naturally, Jian Tian and the other two nodded their heads in admiration. Such courage was rare in the world. Senior Jian Tian, Murong Master, Elder Yi. The three of them nodded their heads in return. If it was in the past, would the three of them do that? There was no doubt about it. The Battle of the Dragon Tribe had a huge impact on the three of them. Following that, the three of them had a 180-degree change in attitude. Longao smiled. Longao, why are you here this time? They were curious. Jian Tian and the other two did not know why Longao had come at this time. Could it be that Longao wanted the sword sect to help him to deal with the Long family and the Dragon tribe? If that was the case, Jian Tian and the other two would definitely not agree. As though he could guess what the three of them were thinking, Longao sneered in his heart. However, he said, Senior Jian Tian, don't worry. I will settle the grudges between me and the Long family and the Dragon tribe. So that was it. The three of them heaved a sigh of relief. After the battle of the Dragon tribe, although Longao's position in their hearts had skyrocketed, the three of them were unwilling to offend the Long family and the Dragon tribe for a Longao. Please take a seat. Longao did not stand on ceremony and sat down directly. Longao, we already know about the battle of the Dragon tribe. May I know why you are here in the sword sect? He did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Senior Jian Tian, I am here for one important purpose. I need to enter a sword chi space. Sword chi space? To the sword sect, entering a sword chi space was not a difficult task. In the Tianwu continent, the sword sect was the ancestor of swords. Moreover, the sword sect had the strongest sword chi space. The three of them were more or less unwilling. The reason was simple. The sword aura space was listed as a forbidden area by the sword sect. Ordinary people could not enter the sword aura space. In the end, Longao was just an outsider. If he was allowed to enter the sword sect, what would the other disciples of the sword sect think? Longao, forgive us for asking, but what do you want to do by entering the sword chi space? To tell you the truth, since you already know about the great war between the Dragon Clan, you should know that I have the help of a spirit in my body. Jian Tian and the other two nodded. Longao fought the Dragon Clan and the Long family. The Dragon Clan and the Long family did not hesitate to use their taboo power. According to Longao's strength, if he resisted the taboo power, he would die. The biggest reason why Longao was able to escape from the taboo power was because he had the help of his divine soul. The three of them could already imagine just how powerful Longao's soul was. If his divine soul alone could resist the taboo power, it was obvious how powerful his divine soul was. Senior divine soul is not dead and has to enter the sword aura space to recuperate. At this point, Longao did not continue, but the meaning in his words was clear. So that was it. Jian Tian and the other two looked at each other. Agree? Or not? If it was the Longao of the past, the three of them would have considered whether they would agree or not. However, the current Longao, especially after the Great War between the Dragon Clan and the Longao, their attitude towards him had changed drastically. Jian Tian smiled and said generously, Longao, we have no problem with that. There are 3 sword aura spaces. Which one do you want? Hearing that Jian Tian was the same, Longao smiled and was not surprised at all. 3 sword aura spaces. Senior Jian Tian, I won't enter the sword aura space now. I would like to ask if you know the whereabouts of the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein. Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein? Hearing that Longao mentioned the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein, Yi Xian exclaimed. Even Jian Tian and Murong Guena were shocked. Looking at the expressions on the 3 people's faces, Longao's heart was immediately filled with joy. Could the 3 of them know about the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein? Longao, let me ask you now. Why are you looking for the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein? Since things had already come to this point, Longao did not intend to hide anything. He said, to be honest, if I want to save Senior Divine Soul, I can only do it by finding the spiritual vein of heaven and earth and entering the sword chi space. Therefore, I must find the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. So that was it. Murong Guena seemed to want to say something but stopped. This made Longao depressed. Because of this, Longao was almost certain that the 3 of them knew the whereabouts of the heaven and earth spirit vein. He could not wait because Bai Ling was in a dangerous situation. Although Xiling could temporarily maintain Bai Ling's sword aura origin, the longer the delay, the more unfavorable it would be for Bai Ling. The faster they found the heaven and earth spirit vein, the better it would be for Bai Ling. Senior Jian Tian, please tell me the whereabouts of the heaven and earth spirit vein. Jian Tian sighed. Jian Tian said helplessly, Longao, even if I tell you the whereabouts of the heaven and earth spirit vein, you won't be able to get it. Even with my strength, I don't stand a chance, let alone you. Hearing Jian Tian's words, Longao's heart sank. Jian Tian's meaning was clear. If an expert like Jian Tian could not get the heaven and earth spirit vein, could he? If it was something else, Longao could choose to give it up. But for the heaven and earth spirit vein, he would not give it up even if he had to go through hell. Bai Ling could sacrifice herself for him. Similarly, he could also sacrifice himself for Bai Ling. No matter how difficult it would be, Longao had already decided that he would get the heaven and earth spirit vein. Senior Jian Tian, please tell me. Looking at the determined face of Longao, the 3 of them knew Longao's determination. A spiritual soul that was willing to sacrifice herself for Longao, it would not be Longao's character if he gave up easily. Longao, in that case, I will tell you. It seems like you still don't know the origin of the heaven and earth spirit vein. Senior Jian Tian, what is the origin of the heaven and earth spirit vein? Longao was very clear that since Jian Tian said so, the origin of the heaven and earth spirit vein was not simple. Longao's heart was heavy. If he could not get the heaven and earth spirit vein, wouldn't he be harming Bai Ling? Longao, do you know the Wan Shou sect? Wan Shou sect. Longao nodded. Of course, He was not unfamiliar with the Wan Shou sect. The Ten Tripod, the Long Family, the Dan Alliance, the Martial Artists Alliance, the Wan Shou sect, the Heaven and Earth sect, the Five Elements sect, the Wanzhan School, the Sword sect, the Purple Thunder sect, the Profound Heaven sect, and the Wan Shou sect were one of the 10 Tripod. The Wan Shou sect was very powerful. It could even be ranked in the top 3 of the 10 Tripod. Since Jian Tian said so, could it be that the Heaven and Earth Spirit vein was related to the Wan Shou sect? Senior Jian Tian, according to what you said, does it mean that the Heaven and Earth Spirit vein is related to the Wan Shou sect? Chapter 1398. He nodded. Jian Tian said, yes, the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth is closely related to the Wan Shou sect. He was in big trouble. Glancing at Longao, Jian Tian continued, 10,000 years ago, the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth descended on the continent, and the Wan Shou sect fought for it. In the end, the Wan Shou sect ancestor fought for it and got the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth by luck. Longao knew the value of the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth. Would the Wan Shou sect give him the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth? It was almost impossible. Not to mention the Wan Shou sect, no one would do such a thing. It was very serious. Longao was determined to get the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth. Jian Tian briefly recounted the matter of the Heaven and Earth spirit vein, including the matter of the 10 cardinal forces competing for the Heaven and Earth spirit vein 10,000 years ago. Longao's face became even more serious after hearing this. The spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth was snatched by the Wan Shou sect ancestor and placed in the Wan Shou mountain range. The Wan Shou mountain range was listed as a forbidden area by the Wan Shou sect. No one was allowed to enter without permission, or they would be killed. The Wan Shou sect relied on the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth to develop rapidly. No one knew how far the Wan Shou sect had developed. According to Jian Tian, the greatest value of the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth was not that it could help a martial artist cultivate faster, but that it could slowly change a martial artist's body. What did that mean? The Wan Shou sect was just a fourth-rate force in the beginning. Even with the Wan Shou sect ancestor, it was not easy to become one of the 10 forces in 10,000 years. The Wan Shou sect ancestor relied on the spiritual vein of Heaven and Earth and his unique beast-controlling art to achieve his current status and strength. Longao, I hope you can think about it carefully. If you go to the Wan Shou sect rashly and provoke them, the consequences will be very troublesome. The Wan Shou sect was not weaker than the Dragon tribe and the Long family. In fact, they were even stronger. Regarding Jian Tian's intention, how could Longao not know? Even if he knew that there was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire ahead, Longao would still go to the Wan Shou sect without hesitation. Even if there was a narrow escape, it could not stop Longao. For by Ling, he was willing to face the world. This was Longao. This was the relationship between Longao and Bai Ling Senior Jian Tian. I will definitely take over the Myriad Beasts sect. They were not surprised at all because Jian Tian and the other two had already guessed that Longao would do this. A madman who dared to wreak havoc on a Long family, how could he be afraid of danger and not dare to go to the Wan Shou sect? Jian Tian and the other two were not optimistic about Longao's chances. If it had been something else, the Wan Shou sect would have given in to Longao's potential. Only the Heaven and Earth spiritual veins. Back then, the Myriad Beast's ancestor had even sacrificed his lover in order to seize the spirit vein of Heaven and Earth. It was obvious just how important the spirit vein of Heaven and Earth was to the Myriad Beast sect. Longao wanting to obtain the Heaven and Earth spirit vein was practically a fool's talk. Longao, since that's the case, I wish you success. Before Longao could speak, Jian Tian continued, Longao, don't worry, as long as you can obtain the spirit vein of Heaven and Earth, the Sword Sect's sword chi space will be open to you at any time. Jian Tian was very generous. No matter what Jian Tian meant, Longao was very grateful because if Jian Tian insisted on not being willing, he would not be able to avoid a big battle. At that time, it was really unknown whether he could successfully enter the sword chi space. Thank you, Senior Jian Tian, Murong Master, Elder Yi, I will take my leave now. Goodbye. After that, Longao got up, turned around, and left quickly. In a short while, he had already disappeared from the main hall. There were only 3 people left in the main hall: Jian Tian, Murong Guena, and Yi Xian. Ancestor, what do you think about this? After thinking for a while, Longao's potential is there. We would rather rope him in than provoke him. The divine soul in Longao's body is very powerful. If he can wake up, it may not be a bad thing for us. Whether it was Murong Fengnian or Yi Xian, of course, they knew what the elder ancestor meant. With the help of Longao, they could contain the martial artists alliance and the Long family. Ancestor, with Longao's situation, it seems impossible for him to snatch the spirit vein of heaven and earth from the Wan Shou sect. Not to mention Longao, even if the ancestor and the others came in person, they could not do it. In this world, no one could snatch the spirit vein of heaven and earth from the Wan Shou sect unless Tian Dao and the marvelous mathematician came in person. He smiled helplessly. Unless the Wan Shou sect is crazy, it is impossible for Longao to snatch the spirit vein of heaven and earth from the Wan Shou sect. Don't spread what happened today. Murong Guena and Yi Xian nodded. They knew what the ancestor was worried about. The Great War of the Dragon Clan, the grudges between Longao and the Dragon Clan, as well as the Long Clan, had already reached a situation where either you die or I die. I believe that the Long Clan and the Dragon Clan couldn't wait to kill Longao immediately. If the Long family and the Dragon race knew that the Sword sect and Longao had a close relationship, the enmity would be set. Jian Tian did not have full confidence in Longao, otherwise, he would not have done this. Long family disciples could be seen everywhere on the martial heaven continent. Everyone was searching for Longao's whereabouts. Those who did not enter the Long family were the Long family's vassal families and sects. After the Battle of the Dragon Clan, almost everyone guessed that Longao must have gone into hiding, and his divine soul had already fallen. Unless Longao's brain was flooded with water, otherwise, how could Longao appear? This point, the Long clan and the Dragon clan had already guessed. Shapotian, who had been searching for Longao after leaving the Wan Shou sect, was shocked. He had no idea what was going on. Was it true that the Longao had been able to escape with the help of the taboo energy? Shapotian sighed. A few years ago, when he had seen Longao in the 9 provinces continent, he had been an ant-like existence. As long as he wanted to, he could crush Longao to death at any time. In just a few short years, Longao had grown to such a level. Shapotian didn't want to believe it. However, Shapotian greatly admired Longao. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let Longao off back then. Longao, I'm looking forward to your cultivation base breaking through to the Nirvana realm. No one knew Shapotian's true strength. Shapotian didn't even enter the Earth ranking. However, no one dared to underestimate Shapotian's strength because everyone knew that Shapotian disdained to enter the Earth ranking. Shapotian's true strength had already reached the Nirvana realm. As for which of the 5 realms he had reached, no one knew. Even his second uncle, Shifeng, didn't know. Yi Fei, who was first on the Earth ranking, was like a child in front of Shapotian. Otherwise, Shapotian would be first on the Earth ranking. Chapter 1399. The Phoenix Clan. Inside a secret room. Ying do you still hate me? Looking at Liu Ying in front of him, Liu Yi was helpless. As the clan leader of the Phoenix Clan, Liu Yi could transform into a human with his powerful strength. Liu Ying's father, Liu Yi, was the clan leader of the Phoenix Clan. He was also a powerful phoenix. As for Liu Ying's mother, she was a beautiful human woman. I don't hate you. You didn't kill Ao Tian back then. I know you did it on purpose. Liu Ying was not stupid. With the strength of the Phoenix Clan back then, killing Ao Tian would have been a piece of cake. Even so, she still could not accept it. It was because of her father and her clan that she was separated from the person she loved for more than 20 years. She sighed deeply. Liu Yi knew very well that what happened back then could not be resolved in a short time. He did not continue to dwell on this issue. Ying I believe you already know about Longao. Remember, do not let Aoshue know about this. Otherwise, with Aoshue's personality, she will definitely leave the clan. Liu Ying's face was a little strange when she mentioned Longao. Her future son-in-law was a little too wild. Not only did he cause trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance, but he also caused trouble in the Long family. In the end, he drew out the forbidden power and left successfully. Even now, Liu Ying seemed to be in disbelief. She nodded. Aoshue will not know about this. How could Liu Ying not understand her father's intentions? With the relationship between Aoshue and Longao, Aoshue would definitely leave the Phoenix clan if she knew about the war between the Dragon clan. Although Aoshue was strong now, it was suicidal to fight against the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. Not to mention Aoshue, even the other clans would not dare to offend the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. Have you figured out Aoshue's situation? Thinking about her daughter's current situation, Liu Ying's face was filled with helplessness and worry. Because it had been more than a year since Aoshue was pregnant. Under normal circumstances, Aoshue should have given birth long ago, but what happened in the end? There was still no movement. Such a situation was unprecedented, whether it was in the Phoenix clan or in the human world. Ying-er, I believe you should be very clear about Aoshue's situation. Aoshue has a pure yin body that is rarely seen in 10,000 years. Once she awakens her bloodline, I believe her strength will increase greatly. At that time, Aoshue will be the next leader of the Phoenix clan. Liu Ying did not say anything. She didn't care if her daughter could become the patriarch of the Phoenix clan. The only thing she cared about was her daughter's health. He seemed to be able to guess what his daughter was thinking. I will discuss this matter with the elders. Without saying anything else, Liu Ying turned around and left. Inside the secret chamber, only Liu Yi was left. Under the dim light, Liu Yi's face was full of vicissitudes and guilt. Ying-er, your father is the clan leader of the Phoenix clan. I don't want to hurt you. With a heavy sigh, Liu Yi's figure disappeared from the secret chamber. Inside the cave, Aoshue was quietly cultivating on top of the huge white lotus. Mother, you're here. Sensing the aura outside, Aoshue slowly opened her eyes. She touched her stomach and a smile appeared on her face. A mother's smile for her child. Seeing the smile on her daughter's face, Liu Ying's heart ached. Forcing a smile. Liu Ying knew very well that she had to hide Longao's matter. Once Aoshue knew about it, she was afraid that with Aoshue's character and temper, she would definitely choose to leave the Phoenix clan. Not to mention whether Aoshue's strength could compete with the Martial Artists Alliance and a Long family, the Phoenix clan alone would not allow Aoshue to leave. The current Aoshue was simply a loss for the Phoenix clan. Aoshue, how do you feel? Liu Ying tried her best to act natural so that her daughter would not see through her. I feel okay, but my child is still not born. Mother, according to the Phoenix clan, my situation is due to my body's constitution. Nodding, Liu Ying smiled and said, your grandfather and the other elders are thinking of a solution. There will be a result soon. Aoshue, work hard in your cultivation. Your grandfather has already said that as long as you can reach Nirvana rebirth, you can become the clan leader. Clan leader? Aoshue did not care about the so-called clan leader. She only cared about two people. One was Longao, and the other was her child. Without waiting for Liu Ying to speak, Aoshue said, Mother, my cultivation has successfully broken through to the Supreme Divine Realm, but there is still a large distance to the Nirvana realm. If it was in the past, even with my special constitution, my cultivation speed would not be so fast. But since I have a child, my cultivation speed has obviously increased by many times. Of course, Liu Ying knew that. Tianwu Continent, WAN Shou Sect. As one of the 10 factions, there was no need to say much about the WAN Shou Sect's strength and foundation. Most importantly, the WAN Shou Sect dominated the heaven and earth spirit veins. As time passed, the WAN Shou Sect would definitely become the leader of the 10 factions. Longao did not openly go to the WAN Shou Sect. At this time, the Long family and the Dragon race would definitely want to tear him apart. If he chose to appear at this time and was discovered by the Long family and the Dragon race, it would not benefit him at all. Brother Long, long time no see. I trust you have been well since we last met. I really did not expect that in just a few short years, you would have grown to such a level. After the battle between the Martial Artists Alliance and the Dragon Race, your name has already shaken the world. Shirpotian, who had just returned, was a bit surprised to see Longao. He had not expected that Longao would take the initiative to come. It was precisely because of this that he was very curious. He did not know why Longao had come to the WN Show sect at this time. Brother Shi, I have come this time because I have a request. Inside, he was even more surprised. What request did Longao have? Brother Long, come with me. Shirpotian did not ask because his father was looking for Longao. The reason was very simple. When the ancient battlefield had opened, all the people who had entered had died. Only Longao and Yi Fei had come out alive. If there was nothing fishy about this, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. WAN Show Sect, Main Hall. Shi Chong and Shi Feng were both present. They looked at Longao in front of them with admiration. Someone who could make the Martial Arts Alliance and the Long family run amok wasn't simple. Especially during the battle of the Dragon Race. Longao was able to withstand the taboo power and stand there unscathed. Shi Chong and Shi Feng knew that they couldn't do it. Senior Shi Chong. Please sit. May I know why you have come to my WAN Show sect? Shi Chong did not directly ask about the ancient battlefield. Chapter 1400. Straight to the point. Longao didn't waste any time. Master Shi, to tell you the truth, I'm here for the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein. Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein? Hearing Longao mention the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein, Shi Chong and the other two looked at each other in surprise. The Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein was the treasure of the WAN Show sect. How could Longao not know about it? Longao, forgive me for asking, but why do you want the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein? Since things had already come to this point, Longao did not hide it anymore. He briefly explained Bai Ling's situation. However, he concealed Bai Ling's identity and only said that she was a spiritual soul. After listening, the three finally understood what was going on. Shi Feng sneered. He said with contempt, Longao, aren't you too arrogant? Don't you think you're looking down on the WAN Show sect? Shi Feng was Shi Chong's younger brother and Shi Potian's second uncle. It could be said that Shi Feng was the second in command of the WN Show sect, not only because of his identity, but also because of his strength. Even if he wasn't as good as Shi Chong, he was close. He didn't care at all. Longao kept warning himself in his heart that he must be calm. No matter what, he came to the WN Show sect for the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein, not to start a feud with the WAN Show sect. Master Shi, I, Longao, will remember this favor and repay it in the future. He was determined to get it. For the sake of Bai Ling, everything was meaningless. Shi Chong smiled helplessly and said, Longao, since you want the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein, I believe you already know what it means to the WN Show sect. Longao nodded. How could he not know? In that case, do you think I'll agree? Shi Feng wasn't surprised at all. Before coming, Longao had already guessed that the WN Show sect wouldn't agree. In order to get the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein, the WN Show sect's ancestor sacrificed his lover, so one could imagine what the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein meant to the WN Show sect. Even so, Longao was still determined to do it. If he had no other choice, he wouldn't hesitate to fall out with the WN Show sect. Brother Long, let's put this matter aside for now. I have something to ask you. Nodding his head, Longao said politely, Brother Shi, please go ahead. Shirpotian looked at Shi Chong in front of him and said, Longao, when you entered the primordial battlefield previously, I wanted to know why no one else came out except for you and Yi Fei. So that was the case. Longao did not want to meddle in other people's business. As for whether Tong Zun and Long Tian had obtained the origin energy, it was none of his business. The current Longao only wanted to obtain the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein. He shrugged helplessly. Brother Shi, to tell you the truth, We were hunted down by the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family before we entered the primordial battlefield. I don't know if the others made it out alive." The three of them chose to believe Longao's words and nodded. "Brother Long, if that's the case, forgive me for being blunt. I can't give you the heaven and earth spirit vein. However, since you're here, you should stay for a while. It might be of great help to your cultivation." Cultivation? Under such circumstances, would Longao still care about whether his cultivation could be improved? Again, the heaven and earth spirit vein was the most important thing to Longao. Anything else, including the chance to reach the peak of the Nirvana realm, was nothing in Longao's eyes. Longao didn't continue because he knew that the heaven and earth spirit vein was the most precious treasure of the WN Sho sect. It couldn't be given to him casually. However, Longao didn't choose to give up. He smiled and said, "Then I'll have to bother you." "Ha ha ha, good. Potian, show Longao around." "Yes, father." "Brother Long, please." "Brother Sho, please." Longao followed Potian out of the hall. He wanted to find an opportunity to get the heaven and earth spirit vein. Longao had already made up his mind. If the WN Sho sect didn't want to give it to him, he would take the risk, even if it would cost him his life. Only Shachong and Shafeng were left in the hall. The two of them didn't get along well. It was a well-known fact in the WAN Sho sect. "Big brother, Longao is overestimating himself. He wants to take our heaven and earth spirit vein. How ridiculous." Shafeng shook his head. Shachong wasn't so optimistic. He said helplessly, "If it were someone else, I wouldn't be worried at all. Only this Longao dared to fight against the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. I'm afraid that Longao will use force to get the divine soul." Shachong was full of confidence. Not to mention ordinary people, even the 10 tripod powers wouldn't dare to come and ask for the heaven and earth spirit vein. However, Shafeng didn't take Longao seriously. In his eyes, Longao was just an insignificant divine warrior. The reason why the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family couldn't kill Longao was because the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family were incompetent. The Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family couldn't kill Longao, but that didn't mean the WN Sho sect couldn't. With a contemptuous smile, Shafeng said, "Big brother, you're worrying too much. In my opinion, since Longao is here, then we'll leave this person behind and give him to the Long clan." "No," Shachong rejected without even thinking. Before Shafeng could say anything else, Shachong said, "Without my order, no one is allowed to hurt Longao. Second brother, don't go too far. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." As soon as he finished speaking, Shachong's figure disappeared from the hall. Shafeng coldly sat in the same place, looking at the spot where Shachong had disappeared and snorted. "Let's see how long you can be arrogant. Shachong, I will let you know that I am the real WN Sho sect's patriarch, and you are nothing." Shafeng's figure also disappeared from the hall. In a secret room. The dim light gave people a very uncomfortable feeling. Patriarch. Shafeng's people secretly called Shafeng Patriarch. If the other members of the WN Sho sect knew about this, they would be courting death. "Shi Liang, go and provoke Longao. If he dares to do anything, kill him." Longao. Shi Liang, a divine emperor who could control divine beasts, had a high status in the WN Sho sect. Most importantly, Shi Liang was Shafeng's man. Shi Liang of course had heard of Longao, but he didn't know that Longao had joined the WN Sho sect. Even so, why did the patriarch want to deal with Longao? Could it be that there was a grudge between the patriarch and Longao? As if he could see through Shi Liang's guess, before Shi Liang could answer, Shafeng continued, "Big brother wants to help Longao, but I want to kill Longao. So that's how it was." Shi Liang of course knew about the grudge between Shafeng and Shachong. If that was the case, everything was clear. Shi Liang nodded and said, "Patriarch, don't worry, I know what to do." Everyone in the WN Sho sect was incomparably arrogant, they didn't care about Longao's legend. Chapter 1401. Potian had arranged a place for Longao to stay. It was a very secluded courtyard with an elegant environment. After sending Shi Potian away, Longao didn't stay in the courtyard. Instead, he got up and left. According to Jian Tian, the Wan Shou sect was located in the Wan Shou mountain range, and the Heaven and Earth Spirit Vein was also in the Wan Shou mountain range. Longao had prepared himself. If the Wan Shou sect didn't agree to help him, he would have to take it by force. Longao didn't want to do that unless he had no other choice. He didn't want to offend another powerful enemy. He would rather have one more friend than one more enemy. That's Longao. I heard that Longao not only made a mess in the Martial Artists Alliance, but also fought against the Dragon Tribe and the Long family. I heard that he even resisted the forbidden power. It's scary just thinking about it. Everyone clearly knew what taboo power meant. The forbidden power was a power unique to those who had reached the peak of martial arts. It was the most powerful force in the world. The information you have is not complete. As far as I know, the reason why Longao was able to resist the taboo power and leave successfully was because Longao had the help of his spirit. Otherwise, he would have been destroyed by the taboo power. Envy, jealousy, and hatred. That was how people were. Grapes that couldn't be eaten were always sour. You're Longao? Looking at the burly man who suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao nodded curiously and said, "Yes, who are you?" "Shi Liang." "Quick, that's Guardian Shi Liang. We're in for a good show." In the Wan Shou sect, almost everyone knew that Shi Liang was one of Shi Feng's people, but what made many people curious was why Shi Liang had stopped Longao. Could it be that Shi Liang didn't like Longao? Sometimes, one didn't need to give a reason to dislike another. "What's the matter?" "When we entered the primordial battlefield, no one from the Myriad Beasts sect came out except for you. Can you say something?" "Explanation?" Longao was a little confused. Why should he give Shi Liang an explanation? Based on the discussions around him, Shi Liang was just a small protector. Even Shi Chong did not pursue the matter. Was a protector so bored that he had nothing better to do? "Don't you have anything better to do?" Hearing Longao's words, everyone in the surroundings was taken aback. Longao's words were completely provocative. Even Shi Liang himself had never thought that Longao would be so arrogant. He was indeed wild. But after thinking about it, it made sense. If Longao wasn't arrogant, he wouldn't have provoked the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. Only a lunatic would do that. Shi Liang felt helpless and depressed. Originally, he was the one who provoked him. Now, it was Longao who provoked him. In any case, the result would be the same. Longao, this is the Wan Shou sect, not the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. You don't have the right to behave atrociously here. Shi Liang sneered and continued, "If you don't give me an explanation today, humph." Shi Liang's meaning was already very clear. Whether it was Longao or the surrounding people, they had already clearly seen that Shi Liang was looking for trouble. Longao was a little confused. It was his first time entering the Wan Shou sect. It was impossible for him to have enemies. If that was the case, why was this so-called Shi Liang looking for trouble? Was it Shi Chong? Or Shi Feng? Or Shi Potian? Longao's face gradually turned cold. Longao didn't want to cause trouble in the Wan Shou sect. He only had one goal, and that was to get the spirit vein of heaven and earth. But Longao wasn't afraid of trouble. If people didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If people wanted to offend him, he would offend them. This was Longao's motto. So what if he was a protector? So what if it was the Wan Shou sect? Why should I give you an explanation? Who do you think you are? Ridiculous. Shi Liang, I can tell you now, if you want to cause trouble, you should look at your own moral integrity. Be careful of trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. Arrogant. Longao's arrogance was to the extreme. Shi Liang was not used to it because the calmer Longao was, the more uncertain he was. Courting death. Shi Liang was looking for trouble. His goal was to kill Longao. Therefore, no matter what Longao did, Shi Liang would attack. The surrounding people were watching a good show. In this battle, Many people were optimistic about Shi Liang because they already knew that Longao didn't have the help of his divine soul. According to the difference in strength between the two, could Longao defeat Shi Liang? One was a heavenly god while the other was a divine emperor. The gap between the two was very big. They were not on the same level. Before Shi Liang could attack, Longao's figure suddenly disappeared. With the help of teleportation, in the next second, Longao's figure appeared in front of Shi Liang. Without giving Shi Liang any chance to react, the sound of slapping resounded. Endless slaps. In just a few seconds, Longao had ruthlessly slapped Shi Liang more than a dozen times. This slap was not a big deal, but it completely scared the surrounding people. Longao's speed was too fast. They didn't even have time to react. Was this real? After slapping Shi Liang, Longao's figure disappeared again. If this was not the WN Shou sect, Shi Liang would have already been defeated. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for Longao to be a match for a divine emperor. However, from the beginning to the end, Shi Liang had underestimated Longao. His carelessness had led to his death. In the end, Shi Liang was lucky. If Longao didn't want to obtain the heaven and earth spiritual vein, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Longao, don't you dare. Without waiting for Shi Liang to finish his words, Longao sneered and said, I just said that it's best to be self-aware. Even if you want to cause trouble, you should see if you have the strength to do so. It's best if you don't provoke me, otherwise, you will regret being born in this world. If Longao had said these words a moment ago, perhaps no one would have taken him seriously. Moreover, they would have looked down on Longao. But now, Longao silently slapped Shi Liang's face a few times. Not to mention strength, Longao had already won in terms of speed. However, everyone knew that Shi Liang had suffered a great loss and it was impossible for him to give up. Longao, you are courting death. Of course, Shi Liang knew that Longao's speed was terrifying. In the next second, he didn't know how Shi Liang did it, but 3 ferocious tigers suddenly appeared around him. Their entire bodies were pure white. Just from their auras, Longao already knew that the cultivation of the 3 tigers had already reached the Divine King realm. I want to see how you can leave. The 3 tigers' speed was no small matter. Coupled with Shi Liang's strength, everyone was already gnashing their teeth. They were certain that Longao would die without a doubt. After all, the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. They weren't even on the same level. However, Longao was unusually calm. Chapter 1402. Longao's cultivation had already successfully broken through to the celestial god realm. He was just one step away from officially advancing to the supreme divine realm. Longao's speed had already soared to the extreme with the help of spatial teleportation. The 3 lightning tigers surrounded Longao like 3 bolts of lightning. The lightning tiger's speed was incomparably fast, but compared to Longao, it was still somewhat slow. Shock. No one had thought that Longao's speed was actually so fast. If not for seeing it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. Shi Liang's face became more and more gloomy. If he lost this battle, putting aside the matter of face, Shi Feng would not let him off. It was precisely so. This battle, he absolutely could not lose. Supreme divine territory, when one's cultivation broke through to the divine emperor realm, one could condense a second-level supreme divine territory. Supreme divine Dao was divided into 5 realms. In order of strength from low to high, it was divine king realm, divine emperor realm, hierarch realm, and divine emperor realm. Supreme divine territory corresponded to supreme divine Dao, similarly divided into 5 realms. In order of power from low to high, it was first-level supreme divine territory, second-level supreme divine territory, third-level supreme divine territory, and fourth-level supreme divine territory. Shi Liang's cultivation broke through to the divine emperor realm, and what he possessed was second-level supreme divine territory. Celestial god territory and supreme divine territory were simply 2 different levels of existence. The gap was huge. However, Longao's celestial god territory could ignore the suppression of supreme divine territory. Black god territory could even suppress supreme divine territory. What kind of concept was this? As the saying went, once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not he was a real expert. Discovering that his god territory could not suppress the other party, Shi Liang looked as if he had seen a ghost, his face in disbelief. Fighting 1 against 4, Longao still gradually felt unable to hold on. Longao was very clear in his heart that if this situation continued, he would undoubtedly lose. Innate remarkable ability, Dragon Roar. At the same time, the 3 lightning tigers, including Shi Liang, discovered that the flow of space around them had changed. Their bodies seemed to be forcibly locked. Long family's innate remarkable ability. 1 man and 3 beasts did not dare to have the slightest carelessness. They immediately joined forces and forcibly broke the lock of Dragon Roar. The difference between their realms was too great, and Longao didn't even have a chance. With no other choice, Longao could only use the destruction seal. Even so, Longao was still unable to withstand the combined attacks of 1 man and 3 beasts. Just by relying on the so-called teleportation, there was no need to even think about the outcome of this battle. With a flip, Longao fiercely punched out. Emperor Dragon's 9 fatal slashes. The Emperor Dragon's 9 fatal slashes was not a very powerful martial skill. It could not even be considered a divine skill. However, under these circumstances, Longao still used the so-called Emperor Dragon 9 fatal slashes. The Emperor Dragon's 9 slaughter had a total of 9 moves. They were the Emperor Dragon's Furious Waves, Emperor Dragon's Heaven Burial, Emperor Dragon's Strangulation, Emperor Dragon's Domineering Aura, Emperor Dragon's Collapse, Emperor Dragon's Meteor Explosion, Emperor Dragon's Heart Devour, Emperor Dragon's Devour, and Emperor Dragon's Destruction of the Heavens. One punch after another, the punches never stopped. It was like a stormy sea, continuous and unending. The sounds of ridicule from the surroundings had already disappeared as the battle continued to escalate. Everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared at the battle in front of them. Because no one could imagine that Longao, who was only a heavenly god, was actually so powerful without the help of divine soul. When did a heavenly god become so powerful? In the battle between Shi Liang and Longao, everyone still hoped that Shi Liang would win. After all, Longao was an outsider, and Shi Liang was one of them. At the beginning, 1 man and 3 beasts were indeed forced to retreat by Longao's Emperor Dragon 9 fatal slashes. However, a divine emperor was still a divine emperor. In just a few seconds, 1 man and 3 beasts had already reacted. Ha ha ha, Longao, you're only SOSO. It's really better to meet you in person than to hear about you. As the battle continued, Shi Liang was almost certain that without the help of divine soul, Longao's strength was not worth mentioning except for his speed. His confidence multiplied. Kill. At the order, the 3 lightning tigers' attack power instantly increased. If it was an ordinary heavenly god, he would have died long ago. With no other choice, Longao finally used the sword art. This time, he did not use the god-killing chant, but the so-called incomplete sword art. Back then, Longao had obtained the incomplete sword art. Even Xiling and Bai Ling were full of praise for it. It was just that Longao had never had the chance to practice it. The incomplete sword art was already very powerful even though it was just an incomplete sword art. Sword chi crisscrossed. Longao used his finger as a sword. Sword chi shot out like a sword net, instantly enveloping 1 man and 3 beasts. In the end, Longao was still no match for 1 man and 3 beasts. The reason was very simple. The gap in cultivation level could not be made up by other things. Unless it was a last resort, Longao would never use the reincarnation doppelganger. Longao was full of confidence. With the reincarnation doppelganger's current strength, once he used the silence bow, he could definitely kill 1 man and 3 beasts. However, in the Wan Shou sect, he did not want to expose the secret of the reincarnation doppelganger. Time rewind, time advance. With the gap in strength between himself and his opponent, Longao did not dare to use the time kill technique at all. After all, the possibility of backlash was very high. However, the battle had already reached this stage. Longao did not care about anything else. If Longao had used the time kill technique at the beginning, the the success rate would have been less than 20%. However, now, Shi Liang had let down his guard. Carelessness killed him. That was exactly the case. Shi Liang found that his speed had more than halved, while Longao's speed had doubled. What was going on? Not daring to be the slightest bit careless, Shi Liang used all his strength to forcibly break through the suppression. However, would Longao give him the chance to do so? With the help of the space teleportation, Longao's speed was faster than lightning. In a flash, he arrived in front of Shi Liang and directly used the firmament-devouring secret art. A huge black vortex appeared behind him and started to crazily devour one man and 3 beasts. What is Longao doing? Who knows? However, no one knows who will win or lose this battle. Everyone thought that Longao would definitely die in this battle. However, they did not expect that the situation would change. Longao's speed had increased to such an extent that he was able to defeat Shi Liang in a 1 versus 4 situation. It was simply unbelievable. Looking at this battle, in fact, everyone had already understood that Shi Liang had lost and Longao had won. Even if they did not want to admit it, the facts were already in front of them. They had no choice but to believe it. Without a doubt, this battle was very exciting. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, who would have thought that a puny heavenly god realm expert could defeat a divine emperor expert? Moreover, he had defeated the 3 lightning tigers. Unbelievable. This battle could only be described with one word: unbelievable. Counterattack. Chapter 1403. Longao's main purpose of entering the Wan Shou sect was to obtain the heaven and earth spiritual vein. Because of this, Longao did not want to cause any trouble. Shi Liang had been trying to kill him, but Longao had endured it, not wanting to make the relationship with the Wan Shou sect too tense. But what was the result? Longao used his time Shortkill skill to lock onto 1 person and 3 beasts, then he started to use the firmament-devouring art. Longao, you're too presumptuous. An angry roar. Immediately after, Shi Feng's figure quickly approached. At first, it was just a black dot, but in the blink of an eye, it had expanded. Shi Feng's speed was too fast. If it was under normal circumstances, even if Shi Feng came personally, Longao would not give up. If people did not offend him, he would not offend them. If people wanted to offend him, he would definitely offend them. However, the situation was a little special now. For Bai Ling, for the heaven and earth spiritual vein, Longao finally chose to give up. The black hole behind him disappeared, and Longao also stopped devouring. He took 10 steps back and coldly looked at Shi Liang in front of him. Shi Liang had just walked into the palace of the King of Hell. Until now, he still had some lingering fear. If Shi Feng had not appeared in time, he would have been killed by Shi Liang. Longao, you. He sneered. Longao said contemptuously, Shi Liang, you should know that you're not alive because of you. Get lost, next time, no one will be able to save you. Humph. Hearing Longao's words, Shi Feng heavily snorted, his face ugly. Shi Feng also did not expect that Shi Liang would be defeated by Longao. After all, Shi Liang was a divine emperor and had the help of 3 lightning tigers. Killing Longao should be a sure thing. But the result? Not only did Shi Liang fail to kill Longao, he was almost killed by Longao. If Shi Feng had not arrived in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Another reason why Shi Feng was angry was that if Shi Liang was really killed by Longao, then he would lose face. Longao, you're being too presumptuous. Impudent. When have I been impudent? Hearing Longao's rhetorical question, everyone was stunned. Nobody had thought that Longao would dare to speak to Shi Feng in such a manner. He was simply courting death. Shi Feng, Patriarch Shi Chong's second brother, Shi Poshan's second uncle, the second in command of the Wan Shou sect, whether it was in terms of status or strength, he was far above the rest. Who would dare to talk to Shi Feng like that? Ha ha ha, Longao, have you forgotten that this is the Wan Shou sect, not the so-called world of the 9 continents? Shi Feng was obviously looking for trouble. Whether it was Longao or the others around, they all saw it clearly. Longao was very curious. He did not know why Shifeng would seek trouble with him for no reason. She didn't seem to know Shifeng before this. I know that this is the WN Show sect and not the world of the 9 continents. You don't need to remind me, Longao said. Although he did not want to look for trouble, he was never afraid of others looking for trouble, even if the other party was Shifeng. Shi Liang, what is going on here? Shi Liang's heart was filled with endless anger after nearly being killed by Longao. He wanted nothing more than to tear Longao into pieces. Second Master, I was just asking Longao why none of our WN Show sect's disciples came out after entering the ancient battlefield. Who would have thought that Longao would turn around and accuse me? He is incomparably arrogant and does not even put me in his eyes. Longao looked coldly at Shi Liang and did not say anything. Longao was very clear that Shi Liang and Shifeng were looking for trouble with him. Since that was the case, the more he said, the more mistakes he would make. No matter what he said, it would be wrong to believe. Longao's only suspicion was that Shichong and Shipotian did not know that Shifeng and Shi Liang were looking for trouble with him. After all, these were 2 different concepts. After thinking for a long time, in the end, Longao concluded that Shifeng and Shi Liang were looking for trouble with him. If there was no accident, Shichong and Shipotian did not even know about it. Otherwise, there was no need for them to act like this. If that was really the case, then he could have directly refused or directly attacked the WN Show sect. There was no need to make things so troublesome. Longao, it seems like you do not put our WN Show sect in your eyes. Shameless. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such shameless people. Shifeng and Shi Liang were simply shameless to the extreme. Shi Liang, Shifeng, I do not want to waste time with you. You better leave, otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Longao's arrogance made everyone a little dumbfounded. Even if Longao could defeat Shi Liang, in front of Shifeng, could Longao counterattack? It was almost impossible. However, Shi Liang was just a divine emperor, while Shifeng was a genuine Nirvana realm martial artist. There were even rumors that Shifeng's cultivation had already broken through the Nirvana realm, and he was only 1 step away from the so-called Nirvana rebirth. The 5 Nirvana realms, from lowest to highest, were Heaven and Earth realm, Unity of Heaven and Man, Universe Cycle Reproduction, Nirvana realm, and Rebirth. Long Tian, Tong Zun, Jian Tian, WN Show Ancestor, 5 Elements Ancestor, and the others' cultivation had all broken through the Nirvana Rebirth realm. Once they obtained the so-called origin energy, if there were no accidents, they would be able to break through the so-called Martial Dao Peak realm within 10 years. That was right. Longao dared to provoke Shifeng. In the eyes of the surrounding people, he was courting death. Longao, who do you think you are? You don't put our second master in your eyes. This is ridiculous, second master. Longao provoked the WN Show sect. If we do not kill him, where will the WN Show sect's face go? In truth, what Shi Liang wanted to say was that if they didn't kill Longao, where would the second master's face go? Shifeng didn't say anything. He just coldly stared at Longao. Suddenly, Shifeng laughed. Longao, I'll give you a chance. As long as you tell me about the primordial battlefield and hand over your spatial divine item, this matter will end here. How about it? Spatial divine item. Practically everyone in the Martial Heaven continent knew that Longao possessed a powerful divine item. Even Shifeng was no exception. He wanted Longao's spatial divine item. The reason why Longao was able to counterattack time and time again, other than having the help of a powerful divine soul, the more important thing was the spatial divine tool in Longao's hands. Especially just now, when Longao was fighting against Shi Liang, that kind of powerful speed, if it was just Longao alone, was it possible? Hearing that Shifeng wanted his spatial divine item, Longao was speechless. That was because he didn't have a spatial divine item himself. All he could do was teleport. As for the spacetime wheel, Longao was very clear that the spatial divine item Shifeng wanted wasn't the spacetime wheel, but the so-called teleportation. Could he really give him the teleportation? Shifeng, I want to ask you, are you representing yourself or the WN Show sect in this matter? Or perhaps, Does Master Wan know about today's matter? In truth, Longao already had an answer in his heart. He was just intentionally asking. Chapter 1404. Longao, you should know who I am. I don't know. Longao's arrogance made Shifeng feel a little uncomfortable. The calmer Longao was, the more uncertain Shifeng felt. Longao. Without waiting for Shiliang to speak, Longao's body directly released a terrifying killing intent, bringing along a powerful aura of heaven and earth. It was the unique aura of a Nirvana realm warrior. Shifeng was shocked. Because Shifeng and Shiliang never thought that Longao could release the chi of heaven and earth. Moreover, Shiliang never thought that Longao would dare to attack Shifeng in front of him. Because of his carelessness, Shiliang was directly suppressed by the chi of heaven and earth and fell to the ground, looking very embarrassed. Presumptuous. Shifeng was furious and also released the chi of heaven and earth to suppress Longao, but before he could suppress it, Longao's chi of heaven and earth disappeared without a trace. Then, Longao's voice came. Shiliang, from now on, you'd better shut up, or I won't let you see tomorrow's sun. Before Shiliang could speak, Longao continued, if you don't believe me, you can try. Ignored. Longao's arrogance completely ignored Shifeng's existence. How could Shifeng not be angry? Longao, it seems like you're really not afraid of death. If he was alone, Shiliang wouldn't dare to talk nonsense. After all, he had just been defeated by Longao. If it wasn't for the second master's timely arrival, he believed that he would have died. But now, the second master was standing beside him. If he was still afraid in this situation, how could he survive in the WN Shou sect in the future? Thinking of this, Shiliang smiled disapprovingly and said, Longao, I'm standing right here. Today I want to see how you're going to make me unable to see tomorrow's sun. Shiliang didn't believe it at all. The second master was standing beside him. If Longao really attacked, he didn't believe that Longao could defeat the second master. If Longao could really defeat the second master, then even if he was killed, there was nothing to say. Not to mention Shiliang, even the people around them didn't believe it. Longao was just a divine realm warrior. Shifeng was a Nirvana realm warrior. The gap between the two was like an insurmountable gap. If Longao could kill Shiliang in front of Shifeng, where would Shifeng put his face? Even Shifeng was very interested because he also wanted to see if Longao would make a move based on what he said just now. But in the next second, didn't give everyone any chance to react. Since the beginning, no one had expected Longao to actually make a move. Forcefully making a move was akin to courting death. Longao was Longao. Even if the Shifeng in front of him was a genuine Nirvana realm martial artist, he still ignored him. Longao had just said that if Shiliang continued to talk nonsense, he wouldn't let him see tomorrow's sun. Everyone thought that Shiliang didn't dare, only Longao attacked. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, Longao's figure suddenly disappeared. Shifeng was worthy of being a Nirvana realm warrior. His reaction speed was much faster than the others. As soon as Longao's figure disappeared, Shifeng had already reacted. Shifeng was very clear about what Longao wanted to do. Shifeng never thought that Longao would really attack in front of him, completely ignoring him and not putting him in his eyes. What did this mean? Pulling a tooth out of a tiger's mouth? Touching a tiger's but in broad daylight? Uncle can endure, aunt can't endure, secret cave can endure, chrysanthemum can't endure. Shifeng was very clear that there was only one reason why Longao dared to attack. That was, Longao completely relied on the spatial artifact in his hand. Otherwise, Longao wouldn't dare to do this. However, Longao's figure didn't appear in front of Shiliang, but began to attack Shifeng directly. Yes, Longao was attacking Shifeng. Seeing Longao's actions, everyone around was dumbfounded. Did Longao's brain get flooded with water? Or was his head kicked by a donkey? Even Shifeng himself didn't think of it. Shifeng was full of confidence. If he couldn't even defeat Longao, he could just kill himself. Just when everyone was shocked by Longao's actions, another Longao suddenly appeared in front of Shiliang. The other Longao wasn't himself, but the reincarnation doppelganger. Longao's intention was very simple. He wanted to delay Shifeng and use the reincarnation doppelganger to kill Shi Liang instantly. Longao knew his own strength. With his own strength, it was impossible for him to kill Shi Liang. It was even more impossible for him to kill Shi Liang in an instant. Rather than that, he might as well leave it to his reincarnation avatar. What he couldn't do, the reincarnation doppelganger could do with ease. Sure enough. Looking at the sudden appearance of another Longao, Shi Liang was completely dumbfounded. He even rubbed his eyes and stammered, You. In the end, Shi Liang didn't say the word you 3 times. However, everyone in the surroundings exclaimed because no one would have thought that Longao would appear in front of Shi Liang at this time. Then, who was the one who attacked Shifeng now? 2 Longao? Everyone was a little confused. They didn't know what had happened. Why would there be 2 Longao out of nowhere? Seeing this situation, Shifeng instantly understood what had happened and was shocked. However, he was already entangled by Longao. It was almost impossible for Shifeng to save Shi Liang in a second. After receiving Longao's order, the reincarnation doppelganger did not hesitate. The silent god bow appeared in his hand and he directly pulled the bow. Shi Liang's body was locked down, and before he could react, he heard a whooshing sound. Shi Liang's body was swallowed up by the light of the annihilation bow. In an instant, he disappeared without a trace. After dealing with Shi Liang, the reincarnation doppelganger disappeared and took a blow for Longao before returning to his dantian. Longao, you. At this point, Shifeng was at a loss for words. Shi Liang had been killed right under his nose, and everyone around him had seen it with their own eyes. Even at this moment, Shifeng still found it hard to believe. Was this real? Longao was just a small martial artist of the Supreme Tao. Longao, you must die today. Shi Liang was killed. Shifeng was very clear that if he didn't kill Longao, he would be treated as a joke. Especially in the Wan Shou sect, his reputation would be damaged and it could be big or small. Longao had already made his preparations. At worst, he would just enter the dragon seal space. He was well aware of his own strength. It was impossible for him to fight against Shifeng. Rather than wasting time and having a slim chance of survival, he might as well take a step back. This time, he came mainly for one purpose, and that was to obtain the heaven and earth spiritual vein. At this moment. Chapter 1405. Second Brother, That's Enough. Shi Chong and Shi Potian appeared as soon as he finished his words. Greetings, Sect Master. When everyone saw that the Sect Master had arrived personally, they all bowed respectfully and greeted him. Shi Chong waved his hand and said, Second Brother, have you forgotten what I said before? Shi Chong's face was gloomy. The more it was like this, the more certain Longao was that Shi Chong and Shi Potian had no idea that Shifeng was targeting him this time. Big Brother, Longao is too presumptuous. He killed Shi Liang in front of me. If we don't give the sect an explanation, how can we keep our face? He felt helpless. When Shi Chong and Shi Potian arrived, Longao had already killed Shi Liang. This was something that they had never expected. The two of them were very curious. How did Longao do it? One should know. Longao was only in the celestial deity realm, but this second brother of his was a genuine Nirvana realm martial artist. Since that was the case, Longao was actually able to kill Shi Liang right under his second brother's nose. They didn't see Longao using his reincarnation avatar. Longao couldn't do it with his own strength. Longao, I want to know what happened just now. Shi Chong was obviously biased towards him. Longao could feel it clearly. Longao didn't hide anything. He told Shi Chong everything that had happened. No matter what, he didn't want to get into trouble. Otherwise, it would be more difficult to get the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. Shi Chen's face turned ghastly pale after listening to Shi Chong. Shi Chong wasn't a fool. He knew that his second brother didn't do it against Longao, but against him. He didn't want to admit defeat. Second brother, it's obviously Shi Liang's fault. He can't blame anyone for his death. Everyone was dumbfounded by the sect master's words. They had guessed that the sect master was obviously biased towards Longao. Was it worth sacrificing Shi Liang for an outsider? Big brother, you're siding with Longao by doing this. I'd like to ask you, as the Wan Shou sect's patriarch, do you have any regard for the Wan Shou sect? As the sect master, the first thing he had to think about was the sect, not outsiders. The surrounding people began to discuss spiritedly because everyone felt uncomfortable. After all, Longao was just an outsider. However, aside from Shifeng, no one dared to speak up. Although he was angry, he didn't dare to say anything. Shichong's status was obvious. Second brother, I believe you know the situation better than I do. Don't tell me you want to make a distinction. He sneered in his heart. How could Shifeng miss out on such a rare opportunity? Although Shifeng and Shichong were biological brothers, the two of them had always been fighting both openly and covertly. The biggest reason was that Shifeng wanted to seize power and become the Wan Shou sect's patriarch. Shifeng had always been unwilling to accept the fact that his father had passed the position of Wan Shou sect's patriarch to his older brother, but not to him. He was still brooding. Second uncle, I also want to ask you, in the Wan Shou sect, are you or my father the patriarch? How dare you talk to the patriarch like that? You're simply too presumptuous. Shapotian was very angry because his father was the Wan Shou sect's patriarch. Who would dare to talk to his father like that? Ignoring Shapotian, Shifeng sneered and said, Big brother, I thought you weren't the Wan Shou sect's patriarch. I thought you weren't the Wan Shou sect's patriarch. How disgraceful. Enough. As soon as Shichong's cold voice came out, all the discussions in the surrounding area disappeared without a trace. Shichong was the Wan Shou sect's patriarch. No matter how strong Shifeng was, he couldn't compete with Shichong. Everyone knew this clearly. Shifeng, whether I'm qualified to be the Wan Shou sect's patriarch is not up to you to decide. This matter ends here. Potian. Yes. Accompany Longao around. If anyone dares to mention this matter again, kill them without mercy. Finished speaking, Shichong's silhouette disappeared. Shichong's attitude was very clear, he was obviously biased towards Longao. Everyone was very unhappy. What did their patriarch mean by doing this? Shifeng's face was full of anger, but his heart wasn't angry at all. On the contrary, he was pleasantly surprised because he had never thought that his big brother would really do this. Longao, I hope you can leave the Wan Shou sect alive. Shifeng smiled meaningfully, then left with everyone. Only Longao and Shapotian were left in the original place. Looking at the gradually disappearing silhouettes, Shapotian deeply sighed and helplessly said, Brother Long, you were too reckless this time. I believe you can see that second uncle is mainly targeting my father, not you. He nodded his head. How could Longao not know about this? I had no choice. If I didn't do anything, I would have been killed by Shi Liang. I know this. This time, father is biased towards you. If nothing unexpected happens, I believe that second uncle will definitely use this matter to talk about it. Longao, I believe that you should have heard about the matter between second uncle and us. Nodding again, Longao didn't want to meddle in other people's business. His main purpose in coming to the Wan Shou sect was to obtain the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. Brother Shi, I don't want to ask too much about what happened just now. You should know why I came this time. I want to ask, is it true that I don't have the slightest chance of obtaining the spiritual vein of heaven and earth? This was what Longao was most concerned about. Brother Long, in that case, I won't hide it from you, you don't have the slightest chance. If you want to cultivate on the spiritual vein of heaven and earth, I can arrange it, but if you want to obtain it, it will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Longao wasn't surprised at all. He had already guessed that such a precious treasure like the spiritual vein of heaven and earth, not to mention the Wan Shou sect, no matter who it was, they wouldn't easily take it out. Longao, let me give you a piece of advice. It's best if you don't mess around. Longao didn't say anything else, he just followed Shapotian around. About an hour later, Longao got up and went back to his residence. It was a secluded courtyard, the environment was quite elegant. Xiling, I want to ask, what does the spiritual vein of heaven and earth look like? This was the most important thing because Longao had already decided that whether the WN Sho sect was willing to hand over the spiritual vein of heaven and earth or not, he was determined to obtain it, even if he had to shed all pretense of cordiality with the WN Sho sect. No matter what happened, he was determined to obtain the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. You wait. Before Longao could react, the image of the spiritual vein of heaven and earth appeared in Longao's mind. It was about 1 meter long and 3 centimeters wide. It was completely golden and was emitting bursts of light. At first glance, it was obvious that it was extraordinary. P.S. Today's 3 chapters, tomorrow on the 1st, Xiaoju will explode, starting at midnight. Chapter 1406. Longao, I want to remind you that if you want to snatch the heaven and earth spirit vein from the WN Sho sect, I'm afraid it's a bit of a fantasy. How could Longao not know Xiling's worries? I'm determined to get it. These 4 simple words showed Longao's determination. It was very gratifying. At the same time, Xiling was also very worried. After thinking about it, Xiling finally said, Longao, in the Tianwu continent, in terms of strength, the WN Sho sect is definitely at the top. In the Tianwu continent, there were 10 forces. Long Family, Dan Alliance, Martial Artists Alliance, WN Sho sect, Heaven and Earth sect, 5 Elements sect, Wanzhan School, Sword sect, Purple Thunder sect, and Mysterious Heaven sect. Everyone was very clear that the WN Sho sect's strength was not at the top. However, Longao did not doubt Xiling's words. Was there something fishy? Xiling, what's going on? Among the 10 forces, the WN Sho sect is the most low-key. I believe that most people, even the other 9 forces, do not know the strength of the WN Sho sect. Longao did not speak. From Xiling's words, it seemed that the WN Sho sect was not that simple. Longao, the WN Sho sect is very important to the Tianwu continent. Even the godly mathematician and Tian Dao will not easily deal with them. Hearing this, Longao was shocked. He was very clear about what Tian Dao and the godly mathematician meant. In the entire Tianwu continent, who could fight against the 2 of them? On the contrary, in the Tianwu continent, who would the godly mathematician and Tian Dao not dare to deal with? Could it be that there was a peak martial artist in the WN Sho sect? If that was the case, then the WN Sho sect was really hiding their strength. As if he could read Longao's mind, Xiling shook his head and said, in the WN Sho sect, there is no one at the peak of martial arts. Longao was completely confused by Xiling's words. He couldn't figure it out, since the WN Sho sect didn't have a master at the peak of martial arts, then who could contend with the divine mathematician and the heavenly Dao? Before Longao could speak, Xiling continued, with your current strength, it's useless for you to know the secrets of the WN Sho sect. When you reach the peak of martial arts in the future, you'll naturally know. This sentence again. Every time he heard Xiling's words, Longao felt a deep ache in his balls. There was nothing he could do. Longao knew that Xiling was right. He was not strong enough. He directly told Longao that the secret of the Myriad Beast sect was related to the entire martial heaven continent. Just think about it. If the WN Sho sect didn't have a peak martial artist, then Longao couldn't imagine why, even the divine mathematician and the heavenly Dao didn't dare to casually deal with the WN Sho sect. He didn't dwell on this question. What did the secret of the WN Sho sect have to do with him? The heaven and earth spirit vein. He only needed the heaven and earth spirit vein. As for other things, Longao directly ignored them. Xiling, what should I do now? No matter what the secret of the WN Sho sect was, Longao only knew one thing: with his strength, trying to snatch the heaven and earth spirit vein from the hands of the WN Sho sect was a suicide. Longao wasn't afraid of death, but he wouldn't sacrifice himself for nothing. Longao, in the past, my sister and I tried to enter the WN Sho sect, but we were stopped by a mysterious master, so we don't know much about the WN Sho sect. He sighed deeply in his heart. Longao, Long Fu, and I have discussed this during this period of time. I was greedy before. The reason why I let you obtain all the heaven and earth spirit veins was not only to save Bai Ling, but also to use the power of the heaven and earth spirit veins to restore 2/3 of Bai Ling's strength in one fell swoop. Longao didn't say anything. Xiling continued, according to Bai Ling's injuries, Longao, you only need to let Bai Ling absorb enough qi of the heaven and earth spirit vein, then enter the sword qi space, and I believe that she will wake up. F***ck hearing Xiling's words, Longao fiercely cursed in his heart. Because obtaining the heaven and earth spirit vein and absorbing the qi of the heaven and earth spirit vein were two completely different concepts. The former had no chance at all, unless the WN Shou sect was crazy, otherwise, not to mention him, even if other superforces came, they might not be able to do it. But the latter had a much greater chance. Longao didn't continue to speak, and immediately left the small courtyard. Brother Long, why are you here? Shapotian was very curious to see Longao come to find him, but one must know that they had just separated, less than half an hour ago. Could it be that Longao wanted to talk about the heaven and earth spirit vein again? If it was a few months ago, Shapotian definitely wouldn't pay attention to Longao, but as the legend of Longao became more and more mysterious, Longao's position in Shapotian's heart became more and more important. Brother Sha, I have something to ask of you. Please say. As if thinking of something, Shapotian immediately said, Brother Long, as I said before, the heaven and earth spirit vein is the treasure of our WN Shou sect, no matter who it is, they can't take it away. Forgive me for not being able to help. Longao smiled and said, I already know about this matter. Brother Sha, just now I calmly thought about it and discovered that with my strength, I am still unable to protect myself in this continent. Therefore, I want to borrow the spiritual veins of heaven and earth to cultivate properly. I hope to be able to break through to the supreme divine realm. Hearing Longao's request, Shapotian smiled and said, So it's about this matter, Brother Long, don't worry, my father doesn't need to do anything, I can do it. But Brother Long, I must warn you first, don't act recklessly, otherwise, even I won't be able to protect you. How could Longao not understand the meaning of Shapotian's words? Longao smiled and said, Brother Sha, don't worry, if I act recklessly, not to mention the WN Shou sect, even I will kill myself here. Ha ha ha, just kidding, Brother Long, come with me. Longao was pleasantly surprised, because he didn't think that Shapotian would be so straightforward. After all, Shapotian was his rival in love, and Shapotian had already said that he liked Yu Yin very much. Longao didn't hesitate, he was very clear that he had to take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to let Bai Ling absorb more qi, then go to the sword sect and enter the sword qi space, hoping that Bai Ling would wake up soon. As soon as the two of them left, Shifeng's figure quietly appeared. Looking at the two of them gradually disappearing, Shifeng's mouth slowly curved into a cold smile. He said coldly, If I can devour divine souls, I believe that my strength will surpass Big Brother in one fell swoop. Longao, this time I really have to thank you. As the cold smile disappeared, Shifeng chased after the two of them. Whether it was Shapotian or Longao, they would never have thought that Shifeng would leave with them. Brother Long, the heaven and earth spirit vein is sealed by the WN Shou sect in the WN Shou mountain range, I believe you should know. Chapter 1407. Everyone knew that the heaven and earth spiritual veins were sealed in the Thousand Beast mountain range. The Thousand Beast sect was located in the Thousand Beast mountain range. Brother Long, our Thousand Beast sect has a forbidden area that ordinary disciples can't enter. Here came the main topic. Brother Sha, where is it? Thousand Beast Cliff. Thousand Beast Cliff. According to Shapotian, Longao roughly understood the situation of the Thousand Beast Cliff. Thousand Beast Cliff, the forbidden area of the Thousand Beast sect, ordinary people couldn't enter. Only geniuses like Shapotian could casually enter to cultivate. Legend. At the bottom of the Thousand Beast Cliff was where the heaven and earth spiritual veins were sealed. Cultivating at the Thousand Beast Cliff was equivalent to cultivating anywhere else. After listening, Longao was pleasantly surprised to the extreme in his heart. Unknowingly, the two had arrived at the Thousand Beast Cliff. At the top of the huge cliff, there was a huge stone tablet with 3 black words on it. It was the so-called Thousand Beast Cliff. Before stepping into the Thousand Beast Cliff, Longao already felt that the heaven and earth spiritual chi here was more than 10 times more abundant than outside. What kind of concept was this? If two martial artists with the same talent cultivated at the Cliff of Myriad Beasts, their cultivation speed would be many times faster than when they cultivated outside. Longao, this is all I can help you with. Thank you. I want to ask, how long can I cultivate here? Hearing Longao's words, Shapotian breathed a sigh of relief. Shapotian was afraid that Longao would act recklessly and forcibly snatch the heaven and earth spiritual veins. If that really happened, even if they were unwilling, they would have to kill Longao. No one will disturb you for a year. A year was enough. Thank you, Brother Sher. Cultivate well, I'll take my leave first. Saying this, Shapotian turned and quickly left. In a short while, he had disappeared without a trace. Having successfully arrived at the Thousand Beast Cliff, Longao certainly wouldn't miss this opportunity. Stepping into the Thousand Beast Cliff, Longao could clearly feel that there were powerful auras on both sides of the cliff. They should be Emperor God level experts. WAN Show Cliff, WAN Show Sect's forbidden area. Longao knew very well that if Shapotian hadn't personally brought him here, he wouldn't have been able to enter the Cliff of Myriad Beasts, unless he forced his way in. If that was the case, things would become very troublesome. The entire Cliff of Myriad Beasts was incomparably huge. On the huge walls, there were many black holes. According to Shapotian, in order not to affect everyone's cultivation, the WN Show sect had carved out many black holes in the walls. This way, no one's cultivation would be affected. He smiled. If all of them were to cultivate outside, it would really be a troublesome matter. Without any hesitation, Longao immediately found a black hole where no one was cultivating. The black hole wasn't too big, but it wasn't too small either. It was like a small independent room. It was difficult for sunlight to shine in from the outside. The entire black hole was very dim, giving people an extremely uncomfortable feeling. Very soon, Longao immediately realized that something was wrong. He had only entered the black hole for a few seconds, but he could already feel that the heaven and earth spirit chi inside the black hole was even denser than outside. It seemed that the WN Show sect hadn't carved out these black holes simply to not affect everyone's cultivation. In the Dragon Seal space. I've already entered the Cliff of Myriad Beasts and am closest to the heaven and earth spirit vein. What should I do next? Xiling seemed to be very excited. He eagerly said, Longao, Bai Ling's situation is very bad now. She can't absorb it alone, so she needs your help. Say it. Later, use the firmament devouring skill to help Bai Ling absorb the aura of the heaven and earth spirit vein. No problem. Longao immediately did as he said. It seemed that he couldn't wait for a moment. Gently putting Bai Ling on the ground, Longao directly used the firmament devouring skill. A black vortex appeared behind him and began to crazily absorb the heaven and earth spirit chi around. According to Xiling, it wasn't easy to absorb the heaven and earth spirit vein from a distance. The first thing to do was to sense the existence of the heaven and earth spirit vein, then use the firmament devouring skill to let Bai Ling communicate with the heaven and earth spirit vein. As long as Bai Ling could absorb it by herself, then there would be no need for Longao to help. Perhaps it was luck, but Longao used the firmament devouring skill to successfully sense the existence of the heaven and earth spirit vein in just 2 hours. Luck. Longao knew that he could sense the existence of the heaven and earth spirit vein so quickly because of the firmament devouring skill. The firmament devouring skill came from the Chaos Stone Tablet, and the Chaos Stone Tablet was the most powerful treasure in the world. Treasures and treasures could sense each other. No matter what, he had successfully sensed the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. Next, he had to guide the chi released by the spiritual vein of heaven and earth into Bai Ling's body. He had to do it step by step. He couldn't be too aggressive at the beginning. Otherwise, Bai Ling wouldn't be able to take it. Genling. So it's Genling. Ha ha ha, the heavens are helping me. If I can obtain a peak Genling, wouldn't I be able to directly reach the peak of the martial path? A crazed laughter suddenly rang out, causing Longao to jump in fright. Seeing Shifeng suddenly appear in front of him, Longao already knew what had happened. Now that Bai Ling's identity had been exposed, even without Shi Chong and Shi Potion's relationship, Shi Feng wouldn't have let him off. After all, Bai Ling was an irresistible temptation to powerful martial artists. As for Shi Feng, he had sensed Bai Ling's aura and confirmed Bai Ling's identity. Greed was written all over his face, and he had an urge to devour the Jianling beside Longao. After the battle with the dragon race, almost everyone in the Tianwu continent knew that Longao had a spirit in his body, and Shi Feng was no exception. Shi Feng had guessed that Longao's spirit was at most a nirvana rebirth, and such a spirit would be of great benefit to him. But now, Shi Feng really hadn't expected that Longao's spirit would actually be a Jianling. Moreover, it was a peak Jianling. What surprised Shi Feng even more was that this so-called peak Jianling's aura was extremely weak. He believed that it wouldn't have the slightest ability to fight back. The heavens are helping me. Shi Feng was very clear in his heart what a peak Jianling meant. Although he didn't know where this peak Jianling had come from, under such a temptation, Shi Feng didn't care about anything, even if he had to betray the WN Shou sect, as long as he could devour this Jianling, it wouldn't be a problem. Shi Feng was already at the Nirvana realm, and he was only a step away from breaking through to the Rebirth realm. Now, once he obtained the source energy, even if he couldn't break through to the peak of the martial path within 10 years, he would definitely be able to break through within 100 years. Unfortunately, it was impossible for him to obtain the source energy. P.S. Tomorrow's eruption will start at dawn. Xiao Ju will start writing now and try to update 5 chapters at once. Chapter 1408. Shi Feng, you better get out of here. Longao's voice was extremely cold. He did not expect Shi Feng to appear at this time. Things were getting troublesome. Longao forcefully sealed the dragon seal space. At this time, Xiling could not appear. Otherwise, if he was discovered by Shi Feng, not only Bai Ling, but also Xiling's identity would be exposed. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, he laughed crazily. Shi Feng could be said to be extremely excited. Jianling at the peak of martial arts. Until now, Shi Feng did not seem to realize that his luck was so good. He actually met a so-called peak of martial arts Jianling. Shi Feng was full of confidence that once he devoured Jianling, he would definitely reach the peak of martial arts. Jianling at the peak of martial arts had the power of origin. Longao, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Shi Feng laughed. Even his eyelids were laughing. Longao, as long as you hand over this Jianling, you can leave. In front of Jianling, Shi Feng did not care whether Longao died or not. Not to mention Longao, even the position of the WN Shou sect master was not in Shi Feng's eyes in front of Jianling. Stalling for time. Bai Ling had yet to connect with the heaven and earth spirit veins, and it had already begun. If it was forcefully cut off, it would only be detrimental to Bai Ling. There would be no benefits, and Bai Ling might even vanish instantly. Longao's heart was filled with hatred. Shi Feng, don't force me. Ha ha ha, so what if I force you? Shi Feng looked coldly at the young man in front of him. He did not put Longao in his eyes at all. He took a step forward, and his aura suppressed the young man. The aura of heaven and earth. Longao had already condensed the aura of heaven and earth. He completely ignored Shi Feng's aura. Longao was very anxious. With Shi Feng's strength, if he forcefully devoured Jianling, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao, do you think you can protect her? Longao did not speak, but his face was extremely gloomy. Longao, I can't help but admire this Jianling. As long as you devour it, I believe that your cultivation base will rise very fast. At that time, even reaching the peak of martial arts will not be a dream. Longao still did not speak. In his mind, he kept trying to come up with a plan. At this time, he absolutely could not cut it off. Otherwise, Bai Ling would be instantly invaded by the surrounding spiritual energy. At that time, Bai Ling would disappear within a few seconds. All right. With the help of the firmament devouring skill, Longao successfully connected with Bai Ling and the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. This way, Bai Ling could devour the spiritual vein of heaven and earth by itself. However, Bai Ling obviously couldn't continue devouring the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. Did he have to give up? Longao knew very well that if he gave up, Shifeng would not let him stay in the Myriad Beasts sect after knowing Bai Ling's identity. If he did not give up, Shifeng would definitely devour Bai Ling. He was in a dilemma. Looking at Longao's expression changing again and again, Shifeng smiled and approached Longao step by step. His smile widened with every step he took. He was so excited that he wanted to die. Time. In this situation, time was of the essence. Longao gritted his teeth as he watched Shifeng approach him. In the end, he chose to give up. Bai Ling disappeared and returned to the dragon seal space. Shifeng was shocked when he saw Genling disappear into thin air. However, he was not too worried. As long as Longao was here, he believed that Genling would not disappear. He had to do it. Longao, let me give you a piece of advice. You better hand over the sword spirit. Otherwise, HMPH. Shifeng did not finish his words, but the meaning of his words was very clear. Now that Bai Ling had been safely sent back to the dragon seal space, Longao no longer had any worries. Shifeng was not like Longao, who knew how to guard against his teleportation and thus interfere with the spatial fluctuations. Longao was full of confidence. As long as he was willing, he could enter the dragon seal space at any time. Shifeng, do you really think you can keep me here? Can't I? Contempt was written all over his face. In Shifeng's opinion, Longao was just a small heavenly god. In front of him, Longao was an existence like an ant. If Longao could escape in this situation, he could kill himself. Longao smiled and said, Shifeng, do you dare to make a bet with me? A bet? Shifeng was a little confused. In this situation, Longao should be thinking about how to escape, but he wanted to make a bet with him. What kind of trick was this? However, Shifeng did not put Longao in his eyes. Therefore, in Shifeng's opinion, Longao was just stalling for time. Although he knew that Longao was stalling for time, Shifeng did not take it to heart. He smiled and said, Longao, if you lose, not only will you have to hand over Genling, you will also have to kneel in front of me and become my slave. How about it? No problem. Seeing Longao agree so quickly, Shifeng was stunned. For Longao to be so calm, could it be that he had some tricks up his sleeve? Shifeng, if you lose, not only will you have to kneel and kowtow, but you will also have to kowtow and apologize every time you see me. How about it? Okay. Shifeng sneered in his heart. He was too confident and did not know that Longao had the dragon seal space. Otherwise, even if he was beaten to death, he would not have casually agreed to this bet. Shifeng, our bet is very simple. As long as you can stop me from leaving the cave, you win. Just a bet like this? Shifeng almost laughed out loud. A mere heavenly god dared to bet with him that he could not stop Longao from leaving the black hole. If that was really the case, then he should just kill himself. Shifeng, you have to know yourself. Don't think that you are invincible just because you are a Nirvana realm cultivator. Let me tell you clearly, you are not even a fart in front of me, Longao. You are just trash. If you want the Genling, you will have to wait until your next life. Courting death. Before Shifeng could make a move, or even before Shifeng could react, Longao, who was still there just now, suddenly disappeared without a trace. This time, Shifeng was dumbfounded. He did not know what had just happened. Why would Longao suddenly disappear? Could it be a spatial artifact? I forgot that Longao has a spatial artifact. Damn it. Shifeng cursed inwardly. He did not understand Longao at all. If it were Long Hang, Shifeng believed that Long Hang would definitely not leave the black hole. He would definitely defend the black hole to the death. Unfortunately, Shifeng was not Long Hang. Seeing Longao suddenly disappear, he immediately panicked. Shifeng's departure immediately gave Longao an opportunity. In the next second, Longao had already left the black hole. His speed was even faster than Shifeng's. If Shifeng knew about this, who knew if he would be angered to death? Chapter 1409. Outside the black hole. In order to prevent Genling's matter from leaking out, Shifeng directly sealed all the black holes. Shifeng had already lost the bet. Shifeng, I have successfully left the black hole. Shouldn't you? At this point, Longao did not continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. According to the bet between the two, once Shifeng lost, every time he saw Longao, he had to kowtow and admit his mistake. How could Shifeng not understand the meaning in Longao's words? It was precisely because of this that Shifeng's face was abnormally cold. Because until now, he did not expect that Longao would leave the black hole. Longao, if you die, will the bet still stand? Shameless. Longao had already expected Shifeng's shamelessness, so he was not surprised at all. With a contemptuous smile, Longao said contemptuously, Shifeng, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but with just you alone. He shook his head in contempt. Then, Longao turned and left. Before Shifeng could chase, Longao's figure had already disappeared and entered the dragon seal space. Looking at the figure that had disappeared in front of him, Shifeng's face became more and more gloomy and ugly. Longao disappeared. Longao disappeared under his nose just like that. But was it true? Inside the dragon seal space. Looking at Bai Ling lying on the bed safe and sound, Longao finally breathed a sigh of relief. Longao, fortunately this time it was scary but not dangerous. It's just that sister did not devour the aura of the heaven and earth spirit vein this time. I'm afraid the next time will be more difficult. Nodding. How could Longao not know what Xiling said? Bai Ling's safety is the first. If I don't forcefully cut it off, I'm afraid Shifeng will not let it go. Longao, what do you want to do next? Shifeng had already discovered Bai Ling's identity. Both of them had already guessed that it would be extremely difficult to continue devouring the aura of the heaven and earth spirit vein. He thought for a moment. The heaven and earth spiritual vein is the only way to save Bai Ling. So, no matter what happens, I have to keep trying. The most dangerous place was the safest place. Now that Shifeng had discovered Bai Ling's identity, Longao was almost certain that Shifeng would conduct a large-scale search for him. As for whether Shifeng would continue to remain in the Myriad Beast Cliff, that was still unknown. Shifeng would definitely think that he did not have the guts to continue staying at the Myriad Beast Cliff. In that case, why not take the risk and give it a try? This way, he could continue to let Bai Ling absorb the aura of the heaven and earth spirit veins. Violet Spirit nodded in agreement after hearing what he had to say. Longao, your cultivation base has already reached the peak heavenly god realm. If nothing goes wrong, you should be able to break through to the supreme Tao realm with the help of the spiritual veins of heaven and earth. Under such circumstances, Longao was no longer concerned about whether or not he could make a breakthrough in his cultivation. As long as Bai Ling was fine, he could even stay at the heavenly god stage forever. He sighed deeply in his heart. Xiling was very envious of the relationship between his sister and Longao. Both of them were willing to sacrifice themselves to go against each other. Longao, I'll tell you something now. It's up to you whether or not you're willing to take the risk. Please go ahead. Longao was very curious. He did not know what Xiling wanted to say to him. Even if your cultivation base can successfully break through to the supreme Tao realm, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to kill enemies above your level, especially when you're facing an ultimate god or emperor god. You should admit that, right? Yes. Longao knew very well what the difference in strength between warriors meant. Just as Xiling said, even if his cultivation base could break through to the supreme Tao realm, forget about defeating an ultimate god or emperor god, it was still unknown if he could defeat an emperor god. What did Xiling mean by that? Xiling made Longao confused. Longao, have you heard of the divine beast black tortoise? Of course I have. Of course, Longao was familiar with the divine beast black tortoise that Xiling mentioned. The divine beast black tortoise was known as the divine beast with the strongest defense in the world. Even the phoenix and the divine dragon with the most terrifying attack power could not break through the divine beast black tortoise's defense. One could only imagine how terrifying the divine beast black tortoise's physical defense was. The divine beast black tortoise race only had one weakness, and that was its extremely low population. There were even rumors that there were no more than 3 divine beast black tortoises in the world. What kind of concept was that? Longao was very curious as to why Xiling mentioned the divine beast black tortoise all of a sudden. As if he could guess Longao's doubts, Xiling said before Longao could ask, "Longao, I don't need to say too much about the divine beast black tortoise's defense. I'll be frank with you. If you can have the physical defense of the divine beast black tortoise, you'll be invincible even against an emperor god." This kind of allure, even if it was Longao, he was also extremely moved. Although he was tempted, Longao knew very well that it was impossible for a human warrior to have such a terrifying defense. As if he had thought of something, Longao was very surprised. According to Xiling's personality, he would not say something like that for no reason. Could it be that Xiling had a way to give him the divine beast black tortoise's defense? "Xiling, do you have a way?" Nodding her head, Violet Spirit said, "Just a moment ago, I sensed the aura of the divine beast black tortoise. Furthermore, the aura was very weak. According to my guess, there should be a divine beast black tortoise sealed within the myriad beast cliff." Hearing Xiling's words, Longao's heart skipped a beat. If what Xiling said was true, and there was a divine beast black tortoise sealed in the myriad beast cliff, and its aura was very weak, then wouldn't he have a chance? "I believe you know what to do now. Longao, as long as you can obtain the divine beast black tortoise, with the power of the dragon seal, refining the divine beast black tortoise will not be a problem. When the time comes, once the black tortoise armor is condensed, I believe that even an emperor god will not be able to break through your defense." The temptation was too great. Let Bai Ling devour the heaven and earth spiritual vein first. As for the divine beast black tortoise, let's talk about it later. Xiling did not say anything, but one could tell from his eyes that he was very satisfied with Longao's decision. The most dangerous place was also the safest place. Most people would not dare to stay. Longao took advantage of this and continued to stay at the myriad beast cliff. Even if Shifeng was beaten to death, he would not have thought that not only did Longao not leave, but he also continued to stay. At the peak of the myriad beast cliff, looking at the endless void in the distance, Longao stood alone quietly. He had already hidden Bai Ling in an extremely secluded place. As long as there was enough time, Bai Ling would be able to devour successfully. Chapter 1410. WAN Show Sect. In the main hall. "Second brother, is what you just said true?" Shachong was shocked to the extreme when he heard Shifeng's words. He never thought that the divine soul in Longao's body was a genling who had reached the peak of martial arts. After thinking about it, he was relieved. If it was not a divine soul at the peak of martial arts, how could it resist the forbidden power and not die? Shachong had a lot of doubts in his heart. Because he and his second brother were fighting openly and secretly, it was impossible for Shifeng to tell him such a good thing. He would definitely monopolize it. "Big brother, I felt it personally at the WAN show cliff. If you and I join forces to kill Longao, then after devouring the genling, I believe that in less than 100 years, our cultivation will reach the peak of martial arts." No one could resist such a temptation, including Shachong. Shachong certainly knew what it meant to have a genling who had reached the peak of martial arts. A genling who had reached the peak of martial arts, even if it was just a divine soul, it would contain the origin energy. Once devoured, it would be equivalent to devouring the origin energy. To a Nirvana realm martial artist, source energy was the greatest treasure. "Second brother, why are you doing this?" Shifeng was not a fool, of course, he knew what his big brother meant. He thought for a while. Shifeng looked at his big brother in front of him, then looked at Shapotian and said, "I can't stop Longao alone." Hearing this, Shapotian and Shachong seemed to be very surprised. Longao's strength, Shifeng's strength, they clearly knew that the gap between the two was huge. Was it possible to say that Shifeng couldn't keep Longao? After all, Longao did not have the help of his divine soul now. "Second brother, what happened?" Since things had come to this point, Shifeng of course would not hide anything. He told them everything that happened at the Wan Shou cliff. The reason why Shifeng told Shichong this time was very simple. Shifeng did not have the slightest confidence that he could kill Longao. Otherwise, why would Shifeng be so kind? After hearing this, Shipotian and Shichong sighed. It seems that the spatial artifact in Longao's hands is not simple. It can avoid the detection of second brother's aura. Big brother, there's no time to lose. We should lock down the sect immediately. No matter what, we have to find Longao. Jianling, who had reached the peak of martial arts, was enough to make Shichong change his mind and deal with Longao. If Shichong had known that the soul in Longao's body was the so-called Jianling who had reached the pinnacle of martial arts, he would have taken action long ago. He nodded. Shichong had no objections to his second brother's suggestion. For the sake of Jianling, not to mention dealing with the Longao, he would not hesitate to deal with the other superpowers. Potian, go make the arrangements. Yes, father. Shipotian obviously knew the seriousness of the matter. If Longao left the Wan Shou sect, then in the vast sea of people, even the Wan Shou sect would not be able to find a single trace of him. It would not be an easy matter. Big brother, I hope that this time we can work together and devour the Jianling. If they succeeded, both of them would obtain the origin energy. If that was the case, then there was no need for them to continue fighting. Compared to the Wan Shou sect's sect master, the latter was insignificant. Shichong nodded in agreement. Second brother, if Longao wants to leave the sect smoothly, it won't be an easy task. Then, Shipotian immediately locked down the Wan Shou sect. The ordinary disciples did not know what was going on, but the core disciples received a secret order and immediately began to search for Longao. Once they found him, they were not allowed to act rashly. What had happened? No one knew. Many people were very curious, because there was only one person who could secretly lock down the sect, and that was the so-called sect master. The more this was the case, the more curious everyone was. The matter between Longao and Shifeng was still vivid in their minds. The sect master was biased towards Longao in front of everyone. It was obvious to all. It was less than a day ago. Why did the sect secretly lock down the sect and search for Longao? Could it be that Longao had fallen out with the sect master? With curiosity, everyone began to look for traces of Longao everywhere. As for the Wan Shou cliff, Shichong and Shifeng had already thought of it, but they did not personally go there. Instead they sent people to search the Wan Shou cliff. From the beginning to the end, the two of them did not expect that Longao would continue to stay at the Wan Shou cliff. According to the thinking of ordinary people, since he had been discovered by Shifeng, then he should have found another hiding place, but it was precisely because of Longao's risk, and the fact that the most dangerous place was the safest place, that allowed Longao to escape disaster. The Wan Shou mountain range was too big. It was impossible for the Wan Shou sect to search the entire mountain range. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed quietly. In these 3 days, the Wan Shou sect sent out countless disciples and searched almost 60% of the Wan Shou mountain range, but they still could not find any trace of Longao. In the main hall, Shichong and Shifeng's expressions were not very good, because until now, they still could not find Longao. If this matter spread out, the Wan Shou sect's face would be ruined. Big brother, we have searched all the places we should look, but we still can't find any trace of Longao. Where is he hiding? The two of them were very anxious, because no one was sure whether Longao had left the Wan Shou sect. If they were unlucky and Longao really left, then no one knew what would happen next. Even if they took a step back and Longao left the Wan Shou sect, and they successfully found Longao in the future, what if the peak martial Dao Jianling was taken away by someone else, or Longao devoured by him? What would they do? The safest way was to find Longao in the Wan Shou sect, and then successfully devour the Jianling. The most dangerous place is the safest place. After 3 days of quiet thinking, Shichong had thought of countless possibilities, but besides the Wan Shou cliff, he really could not think of any other place Longao could be hiding. Big brother, you mean Longao is hiding in the Wan Shou cliff? Nodding, Shichong seemed very confident. He said, besides the Wan Shou cliff, I really can't think of any other place. Longao will definitely think that we will not return to the WN show cliff. Even if we search it, it will only be a careless search. There is a saying, the most dangerous place is the safest place, so I can almost say that Longao is hiding in the WN show cliff. That makes sense. I will go to the WN show cliff now. Wait, I will go too. Both of them had their own ulterior motives. Shifeng wanted to devour the Genling by himself, so of course he wanted to go to the WN show sect alone, but Shichong was also afraid that Shifeng would devour the Genling by himself, so he also wanted to go to the WN show cliff. Chapter 14:11. Just in case. Shichong and Shifeng gathered everyone and gathered at the Cliff of Beasts. Shichong was very confident that Longao was definitely at the 10,000 Beasts Cliff. Just as the saying went, the most dangerous place was the safest place. Outside the Cliff of Beasts. Big brother, if Longao is not at the Cliff of Beasts, we might give Longao a chance to escape if we gather here. It was a diversion. Shichong was betting that Longao was at the Cliff of Beasts. Apart from the Cliff of Beasts, I really can't think of where Longao could be hiding. Without giving Shifeng any chance to speak, Shichong said, Longao, I know you are at the Cliff of Beasts. Show yourself. Inside the Cliff of Beasts. In the secluded black hole, Longao guarded Bai Ling alone for 3 days. He still did not know whether Bai Ling had succeeded or not. Hearing the sound from outside, Longao did not move at all. He seemed to have guessed that Shichong and Shifeng would definitely find this place, but he did not expect them to come so quickly. According to Longao's previous guess, the two should not have found him so quickly. His face was very solemn. Shifeng and Shichong suddenly appeared, but Bai Ling had not succeeded in devouring. Coming at this time was just asking for trouble. What should he do? Should he forcibly stop Bai Ling from devouring the aura of the heaven and earth spirit vein? If so, it would have a great impact on Bai Ling. There was no movement. The others were very curious, wondering whether Longao was at the Cliff of Beasts. However, Shichong was 100% sure that Longao was at the Cliff of Beasts. Longao, you and I are understanding people. If there is any misunderstanding between us, come out first. Shameless. Longao cursed in his heart. Of course, he would not be fooled. If he really went out, would Shichong and Shifeng let him go? According to Longao's guess, Shifeng shouldn't have told Shichong about Bai Ling. After all, no matter who it was, Shifeng believed that Shifeng would try to take her for himself. Not to mention, Shifeng and Shichong had a grudge against each other. His estimation was wrong. Xiling, how long will it take for Bai Ling to finish devouring the spiritual veins of heaven and earth? Unless it was absolutely necessary, Longao really didn't want to forcibly stop Bai Ling from absorbing the aura of the heaven and earth spirit vein. This was because Longao knew very well that forcibly cutting off the connection would not benefit Bai Ling at all. Every minute of delay counted. Of course, Xiling knew the severity of the situation. He immediately said, Longao, if I'm not wrong, Bai Ling will finish devouring in about an hour. Half an hour. He was overjoyed. If it was any other time, half an hour would be the blink of an eye. But now, Shifeng and Shichong were outside. Half an hour was like 8 to 10 years. There was only half an hour left. No matter what happened, he had to help Bai Ling devour the aura of the heaven and earth spirit vein. He had to hold on for half an hour. Longao, what do you want to do? Xiling seemed to have guessed something and was a little anxious. Longao didn't say anything. He summoned Long Ming and Long Qiong and ordered, you two look after Bai Ling. If anything happens, immediately take Bai Ling away. Just as Longao was about to leave, he seemed to have thought of something and continued, after half an hour, when Bai Ling finishes devouring, you must take Bai Ling away and hide. Remember, before I appear, you must not reveal your identities. Both Long Qiong and Long Ming knew the seriousness of the situation. The two divine beasts nodded and said, don't worry, big brother. As long as Sister Bai Ling is here, we will be here. If Bai Ling dies, we will die. They nodded. Longao was very assured of the two little guys. Outside the myriad beast cliff. Just as Shichong was about to continue speaking, Longao's figure suddenly appeared. His face was calm as he watched Longao slowly walk out of the myriad beast cliff. Everyone was a little moved. Under such circumstances, Longao was still calm. Just this courage alone was worthy of everyone's respect. Longao was really at the myriad beast cliff. Everyone admired the sect leader because no one would have thought that Longao would be hiding in the myriad beast cliff. It was really the most dangerous place, but also the safest place. Longao, I have a general understanding of the grudge between you and second brother. I will deal with this matter. Come with me. In the entire myriad beast sect, only 3 people knew about Zhenling at the peak of martial arts. Shichong, Shifeng, and Shipotian. Of course, the 3 of them wouldn't tell anyone about this. The fewer people who knew about Zhenling at the peak of martial arts, the better. Once this matter was spread, even if they could devour Zhenling at the peak of martial arts, it was still unknown whether they could refine and devour it. If others knew that they had obtained the origin energy, there was no doubt that many people would not let them break through the peak of martial arts. In order to avoid trouble, the 3 of them would definitely not leak this matter. In the eyes of others, the sect leader was still biased towards Longao. Sneering in his heart, Longao said with disdain, Shifeng, don't you want to talk about how the grudge between us came about? Longao. Waving his hand, without waiting for Shifeng to speak, Longao said, 10 days ago, I followed Brother Shi to the myriad beast cliff to cultivate. Originally, I wanted to cultivate well, but I didn't expect that Shifeng would shamelessly sneak attack me. Moreover, he made a bet with me that if I could smoothly leave the black hole, from now on, every time Shifeng saw me, he would kowtow and apologize. Shifeng, am I right? Shame, this was Shifeng's greatest shame. Because until now, Shifeng had never thought that Longao could leave the black hole under his nose. Otherwise, even if he was beaten to death, he would not have made this bet. Shifeng's face was very gloomy. Looking at this situation, everyone understood that what Longao said should be true. It was precisely because of this that everyone was shocked. What kind of strength did Shifeng have? He was a genuine Nirvana realm cultivator, while Longao was only a heavenly god realm cultivator. How could Longao disappear in a small black hole under Shifeng's nose? Was this true? The more it was like this, the more gloomy Shifeng's face became. It was simply gloomy to the extreme. Shifeng, you won't go back on your word, right? Longao, you used tricks to frame me. Today, I want to see if you put my myriad beast sect in your eyes. Kowtow and apologize. Even if Shifeng was beaten to death, he would not do this. What a joke, as the second-in-command of the myriad beast sect and a Nirvana realm cultivator, if he really kowtowed and apologized, he would definitely commit suicide. Ha ha ha, I really didn't think that the dignified myriad beast sect's Shifeng would not admit to his words. It is really true that meeting a person by reputation is not as good as meeting a person by reputation. Shifeng, why don't we continue to make a bet? If you lose, you will immediately kowtow and apologize. If I lose, not only will I give you what you want, I will also immediately commit suicide. What do you think? P.S. Today, there will definitely be 10 chapters. I hope everyone will vote for Longao. Xiaoju, thanks. Chapter 1412. Provocation. Longao was openly provoking him. Shifeng and the others did not expect Longao to do this. In fact, Longao was just stalling for time. According to Xiling's estimation, Xiling would finish devouring the heaven and earth spirit vein in at most half an hour. Therefore, he had to hold on for half an hour. Shifeng, you don't dare? How do you want to bet? This time, Shifeng learned his lesson and did not agree immediately. He had already suffered a loss last time. He would not suffer a second time. Longao sneered. His face was full of disdain and contempt. The more he acted like this, the uglier Shifeng's face became. He had lost all his face. It's very simple. As long as I leave the Cliff of Beasts, you lose. How about it? It was this again. Shifeng was really afraid because he did not have the confidence to suppress Longao. Just like last time, if Longao really left the Cliff of Beasts, what should he do? The spatial artifact in Longao's hand was not to be underestimated. Shifeng did not speak. His meaning was clear. He did not dare to bet. Longao smiled. Shifeng was crying in his heart. With his status, he was humiliated by Longao in front of everyone. If it were not for Jianling, who was at the peak of martial arts, Shifeng would have already attacked. He would not have waited until now. Longao, that's enough. Shichong, who had not spoken, finally spoke. Shichong did not expect Longao to be so confident. Because of this, he did not dare to act rashly. He did not know if Longao could really leave with the help of the spatial artifact. If Longao really left, it would be difficult to continue to find Longao. Longao, if there's anything, we can settle it privately. Come with me. He nodded. Longao was very clear in his heart that wanting to delay for an hour was practically an impossible thing. For the sake of Bai Ling, Longao agreed without hesitation. Hearing that Longao had agreed, Shichong and Shifeng were overjoyed. They turned around and dismissed everyone before leaving the Myriad Beast Cliff with Longao. Whether it was Shichong or Shifeng, the two of them would never have thought that Longao had lured the tiger away from the mountain. Bai Ling was still at the Myriad Beast Cliff and was still crazily devouring the aura of the Heaven and Earth Spirit vein. WAN Show Sect. In the main hall. Longao, things have come to this point. As long as you hand over the Jianling, I will let you go. As expected. Longao was almost certain that Shichong already knew about Bai Ling. He really did not expect the brothers to join forces. Shichong, if that's the case, I won't beat around the bush. It's impossible for you to get Jianling. Really? Shifeng sneered. In the next second. The entire main hall was shrouded by a crazy aura that began to suppress Longao. Shifeng, Shichong, and Shipotian all retreated and looked at him coldly. Longao was not surprised at all because he had already guessed that he had defeated Shifeng with teleportation. If there was no accident, the three of them would definitely find a way to interfere with the spatial fluctuations. The three of them must have thought that he had a spatial artifact. Because of this, Longao did not use teleportation, nor did he enter the dragon seal space. Because from the moment he entered the main hall, he had already discovered that the spatial fluctuations were interfered with. It was impossible to enter the dragon seal space. Longao, I will give you one last chance. Hand over the Jianling and I will let you go. Otherwise, not only will you die, even if you die, I will search your soul. At that time, you will still have to hand over the Jianling. Soul search. Longao did not have the slightest doubt. If he really died, he believed that Bai Ling would really be in danger. He released the Heaven and Earth Spirit Qi, but even so, Longao was still suppressed to the point that he was sweating profusely. His body began to sway. His face was very pale. If it was not for his strong willpower, Longao believed that at this moment, he would have already fallen. Hold on. He absolutely could not die. Otherwise, not only him, but also Bai Ling's whereabouts would be exposed. The consequences would be unimaginable. Haha, Longao, if you can withstand the 1000 beast aura barrier, from now on, the grudges between you and me will be written off. Ignoring Shifeng. 1000 beast aura barrier? Needless to say, Longao naturally knew the horror of the 1000 beast aura barrier. In less than 3 minutes, he would definitely be suppressed by the 1000 beast aura barrier and die. He fiercely cursed in his heart. Just at this moment, suddenly, Longao's chaotic dantian began to move. The 5-elemental Chaos Stone Tablet and the new Chaos Stone Tablet he had devoured began to spin madly. Longao had no idea what was happening. Gradually, an indescribable stream of air appeared on the surface of Longao's body, enveloping Longao. The 1000 beast aura barrier, which had been suppressing Longao a moment ago, was directly repelled. Ah! Seeing this situation, the three of them were slightly surprised. The three of them knew very well what the 1000 beast aura barrier meant. Not to mention a mere Longao, even they could not forcefully repel it. Just what was going on? Big brother, Longao is not a simple person. We must keep him here. Otherwise, we will be letting a tiger return to the mountain. Shachong nodded. Of course, Shachong understood the meaning behind his second brother's words. The matter this time had already caused both sides to be like fire and water. If they let Longao go, once Longao grew up, there was no doubt that Longao would deal with Shachong and the Thousand Beast sect. Hence, they absolutely could not let Longao go. If my guess is correct, the reason why Longao can repel the Thousand Beast aura barrier should be because of the Genling inside his body. Longao alone cannot accomplish this. In Shachong's opinion, the reason why Longao could do this was entirely because of the Genling. Genling was the pinnacle of martial arts. If it was any other Genling, it would be impossible to do this. The more it was so, the more excited Shachong was. Because Shafeng was right, the soul inside Longao's body was the pinnacle of martial arts, Genling. Impatient and even excited, Shachong could not wait to get his hands on the Genling. The pinnacle of martial arts was the strongest existence in the world. Once he, his second brother, and Potian broke through, the three of them together would not even put the godly mathematician and Tian Dao in their eyes. Longao's body was shrouded in air. Inside his chaotic dantian, the Chaos Stone tablet was still madly revolving. No one knew what it was doing. Longao, let me give you a word of advice. Don't make any unnecessary resistance. Otherwise, you will die without a burial place. At this moment, Longao did not have the chance to speak at all. This was because he did not know what had happened to him. Why had the primal Chaos Stone tablet started to spin crazily all of a sudden? Of all times, it just had to come at this moment. Chapter 1413. Disappeared. Seeing Longao suddenly disappear, Shafeng, Shachong, and Shapotian were all dumbfounded. Longao could actually disappear under the Thousand Beast aura shield. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, it would be hard to believe. Father, what just happened? Shapotian was also shocked. This time, the three of them were determined to win, but they didn't expect the result to be like this. He waved his hand. Shachong said confidently, Longao can't disappear under the Thousand Beast aura shield. I can guarantee that Longao is still in the hall. Shapotian and Shafeng nodded in agreement. The two of them also didn't believe that Longao really left. Father, what should we do now? Wait. Inside the Dragon Seal space. Longao discovered that he had entered the Dragon Seal space and let out a long sigh of relief. The biggest reason he could enter the Dragon Seal space was because of his good luck. For some reason, the Chaos Stone tablet suddenly spun for no reason and fiercely bounced off the Thousand Beast aura shield. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Longao entered the Dragon Seal space. Longao, your luck is really good. What is it? If it wasn't for the Chaos Stone tablet suddenly going crazy, it would be very difficult for you to enter here. So it was about this. Longao didn't dwell on this matter. He also didn't want to know why the Chaos Stone tablet in his Chaos Dantian suddenly spun. Now, Longao was only worried about one thing, and that was whether Bai Ling had successfully devoured the aura of the Heaven and Earth spiritual vein. Longao was almost certain that even if he had successfully entered the Dragon Seal space, he believed that Shachong, Shafeng and the other two would definitely not let this matter rest. If he chose to leave at this time, he would definitely be walking into a trap. Thousand Beast Cliff, inside the black hole. Long Ming and Long Qiong stared at Bai Ling. An hour. If it was in normal times, it would pass very quickly. But now, every second felt like a year. Long Ming and Long Qiong knew that nothing must happen to Bai Ling, otherwise, they wouldn't be able to answer to their big brother. Half an hour passed quietly. Bai Ling still did not move at all. Even if Bai Ling swallowed the aura of the Heaven and Earth spirit vein, she still could not wake up. It's time. According to what Big Brother said, an hour has passed. We have to leave with Big Sister. Bai Ling. Long Ming nodded. Then, Long Ming and Long Qiong prepared to leave with Bai Ling. Right at this moment. Suddenly, a black crack appeared in the black hole. Before Long Ming and Long Qiong could react, the black crack sucked them in. Even so, in the end, Long Ming and Long Qiong protected Bai Ling because they knew that no matter what happened, No matter what difficulties they encountered, they would protect Bai Ling. Even if something happened to the two of them, they couldn't let anything happen to Sister Bai Ling. A few minutes later, the black crack closed again, and the black hole was silent as if nothing had happened. On the other side, Longao's disappearance caused the three of them to be very depressed. That was because even at that moment, Shichong and the others were still unable to understand how Longao had managed to accomplish that. After all, the three of them knew very well what the 10,000 beast aura cover signified. Time passed quietly. Unknowingly, 2 days had passed. In 2 days, Longao still did not appear. The three of them seemed to be a little impatient because if Longao had really left, then everything was over. The three of them did not care about Longao's life or death. The only thing they cared about was Jianling. If they could get Jianling, it would not matter even if they let Longao go. After thinking about it, Shipotian finally said, "Father, we can't just keep waiting like this. If Longao has left, we will miss the opportunity." How could Shichong not know what his son meant? Under such circumstances, what could he do? With a deep sigh, Shichong said helplessly, "With the strength of the three of us, besides Tian Dao and the clairvoyant, who else in the world can be our match?" Shichong's cultivation had successfully broken through to the peak of nirvana rebirth, and his strength was on par with the 10,000 beasts' ancestor. Even Long Tian and the rest did not know about this. Otherwise, it would have shaken the continent. Because of this, Shichong was very depressed. Before this, he would never have thought that Longao would disappear for no reason under the joint efforts of the three of them. It was unbelievable, really unbelievable. The sect has been sealed. If Longao has left, we will definitely know. After thinking for a while, Shichong continued, "Previously, Longao was at the Cliff of Beasts, and this time in the main hall. According to my guess, even if Longao can disappear, he can't leave the main hall. Therefore, I can be sure that Longao is still here." The three of them knew very well that Longao was able to disappear because of the spatial artifact in his hand. "Father, even if we keep guarding here, it won't be a long-term solution. I know that, but in the current situation, we have no other choice but to defend to the death." Just as the three of them were talking, Longao's figure suddenly appeared, turned around, and shot out of the door. The Samsara clone wasn't Longao. It didn't have any aura, so the myriad beast chi barrier was unable to suppress it. In front of their shocked gazes, the Samsara clone disappeared without a trace. From start to finish, the three of them hadn't been able to recognize the Samsara clone's true identity. He has finally appeared. The three of them were overjoyed. One by one, they chased after the reincarnation clone. If the three of them knew that the reincarnation clone was just a clone of Longao and not the real Longao, who knew what they would do? Following the disappearance of the Samsara clone and the three of them, the myriad beast chi barrier also disappeared. At this time, Longao appeared from the dragon seal space. Longao didn't have the slightest doubt about the power of the dragon seal space. However, if the dragon seal space could be moved, then he would be able to dominate the martial heaven continent. Longao wasn't the slightest bit worried about the Samsara clone drawing the three of them away. Even if the three of them were powerful, it seemed impossible for them to kill the Samsara clone. He was very worried about Bai Ling. Without the slightest hesitation, Longao immediately left the palace, rushing toward the myriad beast cliff. He was constantly praying that nothing would happen to Bai Ling, and that nothing would happen to Long Ming and Long Qiong. Otherwise, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. Just like that, the reincarnation clone lured away Shichong, Shifeng, and Shipotian, while Longao flew towards the Thousand Beasts cliff. The Thousand Beasts sect, the wind was blowing and the clouds were moving. Chapter 14:14. At the Cliff of Beasts. In the silent black hole, Longao's face was extremely gloomy. It was empty. Longao was very curious. Where did Bai Ling and the two little guys go? Did something happen to Bai Ling and the two little guys? Because if the two little guys took Bai Ling away, they would definitely contact him. But in the end, they didn't. Please don't let anything happen to them. Please don't let anything happen to them. Xiling, what did you sense? Xiling's serious face was also full of worry. Opening his eyes, Xiling said helplessly, Longao, if it was an ordinary person, they definitely wouldn't have sensed it. Fortunately, I was careful. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. What's going on? Hearing Xiling's words, Longao more or less heaved a sigh of relief. According to the aura I left on Bai Ling, something must have happened to this black hole. It must have sucked Bai Ling and the two little guys away. Bai Ling and the two little guys were sucked away? Longao jumped in fright and asked somewhat impatiently, Xiling, what's going on? Are you trying to make me anxious to death? He sighed and felt helpless. Xiling spread out her hands, shrugged her shoulders and said, I don't know the specifics either. Our top priority right now is to find out the cause as soon as possible. If nothing unexpected happened, it should have happened 2 days ago. Longao didn't say anything. His face was getting gloomier. Anything could happen in 2 days. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have left Bai Ling. Now, Bai Ling and the two little guys disappeared at the same time. Longao was very anxious, but he couldn't do anything because he didn't know what had happened. Longao didn't disturb Xiling. He sat quietly on the side. Xiling closed his eyes again and began to sense. Time trickled by. Mph, what a shameless and despicable Longao. He actually used a clone to lure us away. Now, it will be even more difficult to find the Longao. The three people's faces were very ugly because the three of them never thought that Longao would use this move. Regret. He regretted it so much. But what was the point of regretting? Longao had already left the main hall. Who knew where he was hiding? If Longao had already left the WN Show sect, then this matter would become very troublesome. Again, it was easier said than done to find Longao's traces in the vast sea of people. Father, I have a guess, but I don't know if I should say it. Speak. I'm sure you all know about the battle between the Dragon Tribe and the 10,000 Beasts sect. The main reason why Longao didn't leave the 10,000 Beasts sect was because he wanted to use the spiritual vein of heaven and earth to cure the so-called Jianling. Shi Chong and Shi Feng nodded in agreement. Even so, what can we do? In front of Jianling, the enmity between Shi Potian and Shi Feng didn't seem to be that big. In that case, Longao shouldn't have left the WN Show sect and is still hiding in the WN Show cliff. WAN Show cliff. Shi Chong and Shi Feng said in unison. The two of them understood Shi Potian's meaning and lowered their heads to think. Now that they thought about it, Longao might really be in the so-called WN Show cliff. Let's go. They left as soon as they said so. Shi Chong took the two of them directly to the WAN Show cliff. This time, they didn't call anyone to go to the WAN Show cliff. Shi Chong didn't want to alert the enemy because he already knew that Longao wasn't simple. This time, they must succeed and not let Longao escape again. A few minutes later, the three of them had successfully arrived at the WAN Show cliff. They looked at each other helplessly because there were so many black holes. If they searched one by one, they would definitely alert the enemy. Longao's spatial divine tool was too powerful. Even with their strength, they couldn't stop Longao from disappearing. Father, what should we do now? We can't keep waiting. We can't search one by one either. In the current situation, we can only try our luck. Otherwise, we won't have the slightest chance. When the three of them arrived, Longao already knew that they were in the black hole. This didn't mean that Longao's strength was very strong, but it was because of his strong sensing ability. After all, Longao was much more powerful than ordinary people when it came to spatial fluctuations. Shi Chong and the other two are here. Longao, I have sensed that Bai Ling and the two little guys have been sucked away by the airflow in a certain space. Then what should we do? Then you have to ask Long Fu. Long Fu? Longao understood what Xiling meant and immediately asked Long Fu. As for the three of them, Longao chose to ignore them. Long Fu, do you have any way to locate Bai Ling and the two little guys? Yes. As expected. Longao was more or less a little unhappy in his heart, because since Long Fu was able to determine the location of Bai Ling and the two little fellows, why didn't he tell him for so long? However, things had already come to this point. The most important thing was to find Bai Ling and the two little fellows first. Other things were simply not important. Long Fu, I don't want to say anything else. No matter what, you have to locate Bai Ling and the two little guys for me. Long Fu's face was very solemn. He said, Master, the space you are going to is the weakest place in the Qianwu continent. It is also the most dangerous place. Not to mention you, even a Nirvana rebirth martial artist would be killed directly if he entered. Only experts at the peak of the martial Dao can enter. For the sake of Bai Ling and the two little fellows, Longao would do anything without hesitation. Long Fu, I believe you know my character. I have to enter the space you are talking about. How could Bai Ling not know her master's character? Master, even if you enter this space, not only will you not be able to save Bai Ling and the two little guys, but you will also die inside. Master, if that's the case, none of you will be able to come out. Speaking of this, Longao became more and more worried. Long Fu, according to what you said, if Bai Ling and the two little guys enter the space, won't they be dead for sure? Shaking his head, Long Fu said, Master, Bai Ling and the two little guys are very lucky. They are stuck in the best place and will be fine for the time being. But if you enter the space, if you are not lucky enough, you will die for sure. Die for sure. Longao was very clear about Long Fu's character. It seemed that the space that Long Fu spoke of was very dangerous. Even so, would he really choose to give up? If that was the case, he would regret it to death. Long Fu, I have to enter the space. You just have to tell me what I have to do to protect myself, Bai Ling and the two little guys. Imperative. Longao was very determined. P.S. The 7th chapter has been delivered. Xiaoju, take a break first. I really can't write anymore. I will start writing at around 12:30. I will try to finish the remaining 3 chapters before 3 o'clock. Chapter 14-15. Master, if you want to enter the weak space, you have to have the power of origin. How was that possible? It was almost impossible. The power of origin was a power that only those at the peak of martial arts could have. When Longao obtained the power of origin, he chose to give it up in the end because he was prepared to walk his own martial path. Apart from this method, is there any other way? Longao had already decided that even if the weak space was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, he would still enter. He had to enter. Master, if you can use the power of the primal chaos stone tablet and form a barrier, you might be able to resist. Longao didn't ask any more questions. The primal chaos stone tablet was within his dantian. If he wanted to use it, it wouldn't be an easy matter. Longao brought Xiling into the dragon seal space. Because Shichong and the others had already arrived, who knew if they would find him? The dragon seal space was incomparably safe. Just like that, Longao began to try to use the primal chaos stone tablet within his dantian. The 5-element stone tablet and the devouring stone tablet had already fused together. Longao was a little confused. He didn't know how these 2 different types of primal chaos stone tablets could fuse together. Not just Longao, even Xiling and Long Fu didn't know what was going on. About 6 hours later, Longao was very anxious. Now that Bai Ling and the 2 little fellows' lives were unknown, how could he be at ease and use the power of the primal chaos stone tablet? Every minute he delayed, the 2 little fellows and Bai Ling would be in more danger. It was as if he could see the anxiety in Longao's heart. Xiling sighed deeply in his heart. Longao, with your current situation, you can't use the power of the primal chaos stone tablet. I know. Long Fu already said that this is the only way I can stand in the weak space. Otherwise, even if I enter, I won't be able to save Bai Ling and the 2 little fellows. Even I won't be able to leave alive. Time was life. Under such circumstances, Longao wished that his strength could immediately break through from the heavenly god realm to the peak stage of the martial way. That way, he would be able to casually enter and exit the weak space. Longao, Do you still remember what I told you about the Myriad Beast sect? Even the divine mathematician and the Heaven Tao don't want to reveal the secrets of the Myriad Beast sect. He nodded. What is the relationship between the weak space and the secret? Longao was not a fool. Listening to the voice, he naturally knew what Ziling meant. Your guess is correct. The so-called weak space is the weakest space of the martial heaven continent. Once it's destroyed, let alone you, even everyone except the heavenly Taos and the God Diviner will be destroyed. Was this for real? Longao was a little shocked because he did not expect the weak space to be so terrifying. In other words, the Myriad Beast's gate's weak space was one of the martial heaven continent's weak spots. It was no wonder even the heavenly Taos and the God Diviner weren't willing to destroy it. Ziling, I'm not stupid enough to destroy it. I believe that. No one thought that their life was too long. Longao, there's something you don't know. Later, Long Fu and I will work together to forcibly open a space tunnel for you. If you're unlucky, a crack will appear in the weak space. Then, as time passes, the weak space will be destroyed. I don't need to explain what that means. I believe you know. I don't care about that. Ziling was not surprised because he knew Longao's character very well. Longao, I have a way to let you temporarily enter the weak space without being destroyed. What is it? Hearing that Ziling had a way, Longao was overjoyed. He could not wait to ask. No matter what the method was, as long as he could save Bai Ling and the two little fellows, Longao would not hesitate even if it was a mountain of blades or a sea of flames. After thinking for a while, Ziling looked around and finally said, Longao, I won't hide it from you. The main reason why ordinary people can't enter the weak space is because there's an endless amount of forbidden power in the weak space. If ordinary people enter, they will be killed instantly by the forbidden power. Regarding this point, Longao had already guessed. Only the marvelous mathematician and Tian Dao could enter the weak space. Once others entered, they would definitely die. As long as they were not fools, they would be able to guess what was going on. How terrifying the taboo power was, Longao was clearer than anyone else in his heart. Just as Long Fu was worried, unless he had the origin energy, he believed that he could resist the forbidden power. Otherwise, once he entered the weak space, he would definitely be killed instantly by the forbidden power. That was exactly the case. Longao was very curious about what method Ziling had to let him enter the weak space so that he would not be killed instantly by the forbidden power. Longao, if you don't want to be killed by the forbidden power when you enter the weak space, the only way is to control your doppelganger. You mean that the reincarnation doppelganger can ignore the forbidden power? He was very shocked. Although Longao had full confidence in the reincarnation doppelganger, he knew better than anyone else what the forbidden power meant. He had never thought that his reincarnation doppelganger could ignore the forbidden power. Ziling also seemed to be a little confused and said, I don't know either. But based on my observations, I can tell you that your reincarnation doppelganger is immortal as long as it doesn't encounter a destructive force. Therefore, I can be even more certain that your reincarnation doppelganger can ignore the forbidden power. In that case, why do you have to enter the weak space? Why don't you split up? Split up. What did that mean? Before Longao could speak, Ziling continued, Longao, you should remember that I told you about the divine beast black tortoise. You want me to look for the divine beast black tortoise now? Longao was not in the mood to look for the so-called divine beast black tortoise. Bai Ling and the two little guys were still trapped in the weak space. Who knew if they were dead or alive? Under such circumstances, he did not even care about the divine beast black tortoise, let alone the divine beast black tortoise. Longao, even if you stay here, it won't make any difference. Why don't you take this opportunity to find the divine beast black tortoise and refine the black tortoise armor? By then, your strength will be able to sweep across the supreme realm. You have to remember, without strength, even if your sister wakes up this time, what about the future? After hearing Ziling's words, Longao seemed to be greatly moved. Strength. Ziling was right. In this world where strength was respected, without strength, it was equivalent to having nothing. Even his own life and the lives of his family could not be protected. Just like before, if he had enough strength, would Bai Ling still have to sacrifice herself to protect him? If he had enough strength, would Yu Yin and Aoshue still have to leave him? P.S. I accidentally fell asleep and woke up at 2:20. Sorry, the 8th chapter has been delivered. Xiao Ju has a cup of coffee and continues to write. I won't sleep until I finish the remaining 2 chapters tonight. Chapter 14:16. Without strength, it would be hard to do anything. Without strength, he could not even protect himself. Without strength, he could not even protect his family and loved ones. Strength, he must have enough strength. Thinking of this, Longao said firmly, "You're right, I must get the divine beast Black Tortoise." Xiling, where should I go to find the divine beast Black Tortoise? According to Xiling, as long as he could get the divine beast Black Tortoise, he could use the dragon seal and Long Fu's power to refine the divine beast Black Tortoise into the Black Tortoise armor. The divine beast Black Tortoise's defensive power was needless to say. He believed that the Black Tortoise armor refined from the divine beast Black Tortoise's defensive power was equally terrifying. Once his cultivation broke through to the supreme divine path, Longao was confident that he could even fight against an emperor god with the help of the Black Tortoise armor. Come with me. As soon as Longao left the dragon seal space, he felt an aura sweep past him. He was shocked. Fortunately, he was sensitive to spatial fluctuations. Otherwise, he would have been discovered by Shifeng and Shichong if he was caught off guard. Longao was not afraid of the WN Shou sect, but he did not want to cause trouble at this time. On the other side, Shifeng and Shichong had sealed off the WN Shou cliff. No one was allowed to enter without permission, otherwise they would be killed. Father, we have searched all the black holes and did not find any trace of Longao. At this point, Shapotian did not continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. Shichong knew exactly what his son was implying. Helpless, deeply helpless. It seems that Longao has left the WN Shou cliff, but the sect has sealed off. I don't believe that he can leave. Shichong was still unwilling to give up. Jianling at the peak of the martial path was rare. No one would give up easily, let alone Shichong. Father, Longao's spatial artifact is too powerful. We can't catch Longao alone. Shapotian was depressed. Speaking of Longao's strength, not to mention the 3 of them joining forces, even if any one of them casually came out, they could easily deal with Longao. Helplessly. Longao didn't fight them head-on. He always used his spatial artifact to disappear. If this continued, then even if they found Longao, what could they do? Could it be that Longao would still enter the main hall? Big brother, Potian is right. We have to think of a way. Otherwise, even if we can find Longao, it will be useless. Jianling, who had reached the pinnacle of martial arts, was something Shichong was determined to obtain. It was impossible for a Nirvana realm martial artist to obtain the origin energy as it was completely controlled by the heavenly Tao. Shichong knew very well that this was his only chance. If he missed this opportunity, it would be almost impossible for him to reach the peak of martial arts in the future. Father, why don't we ask the old ancestor to come out? Hearing Heavenbreaker's words, both Shifeng and Shichong were shocked. If it was any other matter, they would have agreed without hesitation. But this matter was different. They were almost certain that once the old ancestor knew about this, the Jianling would have nothing to do with them. How could they agree to give up the Jianling for nothing? Potian, I just want to ask you one thing. Do you want to give up the Jianling? No. Shapotian wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew what his father and second uncle meant. After thinking for a while, Shapotian said, Father, second uncle, with our strength, we can't catch Longao. If that's the case, we will also lose our chance. Since that's the case, why don't we inform the old ancestor? With the old ancestor's magical power, I believe this matter will be successful. Before Shifeng and Shichong could speak, Shapotian continued. The 3 of us have already reached the Nirvana realm. As long as we ask the old ancestor to let us devour half of the Jianling, I believe we can reach the peak of martial arts in the future. If the three of them devoured half of the Genling, the time for them to reach the peak of martial arts would be delayed indefinitely. Even if we are willing, will the old ancestor agree? Devouring half of the Genling and devouring half of the Genling were two completely different concepts. How should they choose? Just as the three of them were discussing what to do, they didn't realize that Longao had already left the black hole by teleporting and jumped directly to the bottom of the cliff of beasts. If the three of them knew that Longao was in the black hole, they would be furious. They couldn't even find Longao right under their noses. Just as Longao was descending quickly, when he was halfway down, Longao forcefully controlled his body, took a step forward, and shot towards the pitch-black wall in front of him. He disappeared. If Longao was alone, he wouldn't be able to find the entrance, but with Xiling's help, Longao entered the huge cave accurately. The entire cave was extremely huge. As soon as Longao stepped into the cave, he could clearly feel that there was a terrifying force inside the cave, like a seal. There was no doubt that the seal in the cave was to seal the divine beast Black Tortoise. Longao couldn't imagine who sealed the divine beast Black Tortoise in the Wan Shou sect. After all, the divine beast Black Tortoise's strength was obvious. Could it be the Wan Shou sect's old ancestor? In the middle of the cave, there was a mythological beast that was like a small mountain. It looked extremely strange because the monster looked like a giant snake and a tortoise. Longao almost didn't need to guess. He had already asserted that the mythological beast in front of him was his target this time, the mythological beast Black Tortoise. Longao, don't worry, the divine beast Black Tortoise's strength is less than 1/10,000th of its peak strength. Not to mention your strength, even a Xiantian warrior can easily defeat the divine beast Black Tortoise. Your luck is really good. Nodding, Longao was a little excited about his luck. He found the divine beast Black Tortoise at this time, and its strength was less than 1/10,000th of its peak strength. What did this mean? It meant that he could easily defeat the divine beast Black Tortoise without any hesitation. Longao couldn't resist such temptation. After all, according to Xiling, as long as he could kill the divine beast Black Tortoise, then Long Fu could refine the Black Tortoise armor for him. At that time, even if he was standing, he believed that a divine emperor warrior wouldn't be able to break through his physical defense. Just as Longao was about to attack, the divine beast Black Tortoise, which seemed to be sleeping, suddenly opened its eyes, startling Longao. Its old and weak voice sounded, "Human, do you want to kill me?" Longao nodded. Things had already come to this point, so he didn't say any more nonsense. Did he want to talk about feelings with you? It was completely nonsense, so he might as well get straight to the point. P.S. Chapter 9 has been delivered, it's 5 o'clock. Little 9 can't stay up any longer, so he's going to sleep first. The last chapter will be added later. Chapter 14-17. Longao, do it. Longao didn't want to waste any more time. He came here mainly to kill the divine beast Black Tortoise. If the divine beast Black Tortoise was in its prime, Longao knew what it meant. Even Shachong and Shafeng wouldn't be able to defeat the divine beast Black Tortoise. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He couldn't miss it. You can't kill me. Ignore. Since things had already come to this, why couldn't he kill him? Longao didn't take the divine beast Black Tortoise's words to heart. He was a little excited at the thought of getting the Black Tortoise armor. But in the end, just as Longao was about to attack, the divine beast Black Tortoise, which was sleeping, suddenly moved. Boom! With a loud bang, Longao's fist landed on the divine beast Black Tortoise's body and was bounced back. Lin Fan was shocked. What a strong physical defense. No wonder it was the divine beast Black Tortoise. Even in its current situation, its physical defense was still so terrifying. Lin Fan's punch couldn't break through and was bounced back by the divine beast Black Tortoise. Human, with your strength, you can't break through my defense. Hearing this, Longao's face turned ugly. He was despised by the divine beast Black Tortoise, blatantly despised. Human, I know what you mean. As long as you can avenge me, not only will I kill myself here, but I will also give you a treasure. With it, you can kill enemies above your level. How about it? Avenge? Longao wasn't a fool. The person who could defeat the divine beast Black Tortoise and seal it here was definitely not simple. It might even be the so-called Thousand Beasts ancestor. Although he was already at war with the WN Sho sect, Longao was very clear about his own strength. Going against the WN Sho sect ancestor was simply courting death. Longao didn't reject immediately. Instead, he said, I want to see your so-called treasure first. Xiling, be careful. I'm afraid the divine beast Black Tortoise wants to take your body. Lin Fan nodded. Regarding the meaning in Xiling's words, how could Longao not know? The divine beast Black Tortoise was already sealed here. It was almost impossible for it to leave. In other words, there were only two ways for the divine beast Black Tortoise to escape. The first was to break the seal and leave. The second was to take over someone else's body and use external forces to leave. It was obvious that the divine beast Black Tortoise was unable to break the seal here, so there was only the second way. As expected. Just as Longao and Xiling were talking, the divine beast Black Tortoise, which had been extremely weak just a moment ago, suddenly released a terrifying suction force from its body and sucked Longao in. If it weren't for Xiling's reminder, and if he hadn't been careful, Longao would have been at a disadvantage by now. Emperor Dragon 9 kills. Emperor Dragon's Raging Waves, Emperor Dragon's Heaven Burial, Emperor Dragon's Strangulation, Emperor Dragon's Dominance, Emperor Dragon's Collapse, Emperor Dragon's Meteor Explosion, Emperor Dragon's Heart Devour, and Emperor Dragon's Destruction of the Firmament. 9 consecutive strikes. Longao punched the divine beast Black Tortoise with both his fists. Punch after punch, Longao's speed soared to the extreme. Every punch landed on the divine beast Black Tortoise. He still couldn't break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense. Ha ha ha, human, with just you. You want to break through my defense? What a joke, ha ha ha. The divine beast Black Tortoise laughed crazily. The entire cave was filled with the divine beast Black Tortoise's crazy laughter. Confidence. The divine beast Black Tortoise's crazy laughter represented its strong confidence. After all, the divine beast Black Tortoise was known as the divine beast with the strongest defense in the world. Even a Nirvana Realm Warrior might not be able to break through its defense, let alone a Supreme Realm Warrior. Unable to break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense, Longao took 10 steps back and looked coldly at the divine beast Black Tortoise who was laughing crazily in front of him. Xiling, how can I break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense? He thought. With the divine beast Black Tortoise's current situation, he could easily break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense. However, he did not expect that even at this stage, the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense was still so strong. Longao knew clearly that since Xiling had brought him here, he must have a way to break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense. Just as expected. Longao, with your strength alone, you will definitely not be able to break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense. However, Long Fu and I have already discussed this. Both of us will work together and transfer energy into your body. With the help of the firmament devouring skill and the incomplete sword principle, I hope you can break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense. In an instant, Longao felt the two energies entering his body. Without any hesitation, he immediately used the firmament devouring skill and the firmament sword principle. A huge black whirlpool appeared behind him and streaks of sword chi appeared. With the black whirlpool as the center, countless sword chi began to spin wildly. It looked extremely strange. The divine beast Black Tortoise snorted coldly. Even at this moment, the divine beast Black Tortoise still did not take Longao seriously. This was because the divine beast Black Tortoise was too confident in its own defense. Carelessness kills. Longao might not be able to break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense. Unfortunately, the divine beast Black Tortoise was too careless. Longao turned all his energy into a sword and slashed at the divine beast Black Tortoise. Crack! Just when the divine beast Black Tortoise was full of confidence that Longao would not be able to break through its defense, it did not expect that its defense would be broken through by a sword. Taking advantage of the situation, Longao certainly would not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He did not give the divine beast Black Tortoise any chance at all. Using his finger as a sword, streaks of sword chi shot out rapidly. In just a few seconds, the divine beast Black Tortoise had fallen to the ground and was no longer breathing. Looking at the divine beast Black Tortoise that had fallen to the ground, Longao let out a long sigh of relief. If it wasn't for Ziling and Long Fu's help this time, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens for him to break through the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense. It was almost impossible. Ziling, what should I do now? Longao had no idea how to refine the divine beast Black Tortoise. He had to rely on Ziling and Long Fu because only the two of them could refine the Black Tortoise armor. Longao, to refine the Black Tortoise armor, we only need the divine beast Black Tortoise's shell and blood. As for the divine beast Black Tortoise's soul, you can do as you see fit. Longao was well aware of the divine beast Black Tortoise's strength. If he was not mistaken, the divine beast Black Tortoise that he had just killed should be in the Nirvana realm. It was only one step away from breaking through to the Nirvana rebirth realm. However, with the divine beast Black Tortoise's strength, even a Nirvana rebirth realm warrior might not be its opponent. The biggest reason was the divine beast Black Tortoise's defense. Long Fu, if you were to refine the divine beast Black Tortoise's soul, how confident are you? Master, it's very difficult. If I were to forcefully refine it, I would guess that it would take at least 3 years. Chapter 14:18. 3 years. It was neither too long nor too short. Longao, you don't have to worry about refining the Black Tortoise armor. Long Fu and I will take care of it. Thank you. Even if Longao wanted to take care of it, he was powerless. Not to mention refining the Black Tortoise armor, it was still unknown whether he could remove the shell from the divine beast Black Tortoise. If the bloodline and shell could be refined into the Black Tortoise armor, what about the remaining divine soul? After thinking about it, Longao could not think of the best way. It was a pain in the ass to refine the divine soul in 3 years. Longao, according to my guess, the divine beast Black Tortoise's divine soul should be less than 2/3 of its peak. Instead of waiting for 3 years to refine a soul slave, it is better to use it now. What do you mean? Your cultivation has broken through to the peak divine realm. As long as you devour 1/3 of the divine soul and with our help, you should be able to break through to the supreme divine realm. Before Longao could speak, Ziling continued, Long Fu and I are going to devour the remaining divine soul. At this point, how could Longao not agree? Next, Long Fu immediately began refining the Black Tortoise armor. As for Longao, he used the celestial devouring skill to devour half of the divine soul. They sat on the ground. Longao had the sacred desolation body. Under normal circumstances, he would not encounter any bottlenecks. As long as he had enough power, it would be much easier for him to break through than others. After Longao devoured half of the divine soul, he immediately used the celestial devouring skill to refine the divine soul in his body. The biggest difference between the supreme divine realm and the supreme divine realm was the so-called divine realm. The divine realm and the supreme divine realm were two different concepts of power and could not be compared. Once Longao's mysterious black divine realm transformed into a supreme divine realm, even an emperor god would not be able to suppress Longao with the help of the divine realm. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Right at this moment, Longao slowly opened his eyes and let out a long sigh of relief. His face was filled with excitement and surprise. After 3 days of hard work, the heavenly god domain in his body had finally transformed into a supreme god domain, although it was only a grade 1 supreme god domain. The transformation of the divine realm also meant that Longao had transformed. In other words, at this moment, Longao had successfully broken through from the heavenly god realm to the divine king realm. The supreme divine way was the same as the divine way realm in that there was no division of ranks. Longao's cultivation had already successfully broken through to the Divine King realm. Next, he would continue to advance to the so-called peak Divine King realm. The Supreme Divine Tao had a total of 4 realms: the Divine King realm, the Divine Emperor realm, the Hierarch realm, and the Divine Emperor realm. He had broken through to the Divine King realm and was one step closer to the Nirvana realm. Longao, congratulations on successfully breaking through to the unparalleled realm. Longao smiled and asked, "How's the Black Tortoise armor?" His reincarnation body had successfully entered the weak space, but Longao was not too worried. The reason was simple. The reincarnation body was formed by Longao himself. Once the reincarnation body fell, the first person to know would be Longao. Moreover, it would cause an immeasurable loss to Longao. The reincarnation body was fine, which meant that the reincarnation body entered the weak space smoothly. Since his cultivation had successfully broken through to the Divine King realm, Longao knew very well that as long as he had the Black Tortoise armor, even an ultimate god warrior would not be able to compete with him. As for whether an Emperor god warrior could kill him, it was still unknown. That was exactly the case. Longao was full of expectations for the Black Tortoise armor. According to Xiling, the divine beast Black Tortoise's blood and shell were extremely hard. Ordinary people would not be able to successfully refine it. Fortunately, the dragon seal's power was not simple and could forcibly refine the Black Tortoise armor. Longao, the Black Tortoise armor is very difficult to refine. Even with the dragon seal's power, I'm guessing it would take at least a month to refine it. A month's time was just a blink of an eye for Longao. If that's the case, I'd better return to the Cliff of Beasts as soon as possible. I can sense the reincarnation body's aura. If nothing goes wrong, he should be back soon. Xiling certainly did not want anything to happen to his sister. He was overjoyed when he heard that the reincarnation body was about to return. Both of them were a little anxious. They immediately got up and prepared to return to the Cliff of Beasts. However, at that moment, suddenly, countless beastly roars could be heard from all directions, filling every inch of the cave. It was ear-piercing and corrosive. The endless beastly roars were not only ear-piercing but also unpleasant. Longao even felt that the beastly roars had directly invaded his mind and soul. If it was not for his quick reaction, he would have been killed by the roars. What a terrifying roar! The beastly roars were endless. Longao did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. He immediately used the destruction of heaven and earth. He was like a tornado, dispersing all the beastly roars around him. What a fearless boy! How dare you behave so atrociously in my WAN show sect? As soon as the voice fell, the beastly roars disappeared and a middle-aged man in a 5-colored beast robe appeared. His face was full of masculinity and his burly body gave people a feeling of explosiveness. Longao's heart was instantly shocked because he could clearly sense that the tall and sturdy big man that suddenly appeared in front of him was a Nirvana realm martial artist. The aura of heaven and earth that was emitted from the tall and sturdy big man's body was not fake. Could it be that this person was the super strong person that killed the divine beast, the Black Tortoise? The WN Show sect, as one of the top 10 sects, needless to say, there were more than 10 Nirvana realm martial artists in the sect. Who are you? You broke into my forbidden area and now you're asking me who I am? Boy, I have to admit that you're really brave. Do you know how useful the divine beast Black Tortoise that you killed 3 days ago was to me? Hearing this, Longao was a little puzzled. According to the burly man, 3 days ago when he fought with the divine beast Black Tortoise, this man was beside him. Since that was the case, why didn't the burly man appear 3 days ago? Why did he choose to appear now? As if he could guess what Longao was thinking, the burly man coldly snorted and said angrily, 3 days ago, if I hadn't been at the most critical moment of my cultivation, you would have been dead. Boy, you killed my divine beast Black Tortoise and broke into my forbidden area. Tell me, how should I punish you? Unless it was a last resort, Longao did not want to fight with a Nirvana realm martial artist. After all, the gap between their strengths was too big. There was no need to waste time here. Senior, I didn't mean to offend you. I also accidentally broke into your forbidden area. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave." Before Longao could turn around and leave, the burly man angrily threw a punch at him. Chapter 14:19. The power of the punch was as if heaven and earth were falling apart. Longao was also shocked. The full-strength punch of a Nirvana realm martial artist was no small matter. If he was hit, the consequences would be unimaginable. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao's body instantly disappeared from the spot. The punch hit empty air. Subsequently, surprised voices rang out. The burly man did not seem to have thought that the other party, a little supreme divine Dao martial artist, could actually dodge his punch. "Is this teleportation?" Hearing the burly man's words, Longao was shocked to the extreme. Because ever since he comprehended spatial teleportation in the 9 Revolutions reincarnation technique, no one recognized it. Everyone thought that his spatial teleportation was a spatial divine tool. Only the burly man. At a glance, he recognized that his so-called spatial teleportation was not a spatial divine tool, but a real teleportation. Teleportation was an incomparably heaven-defying divine ability. Even a Nirvana realm martial artist, or even a heavenly Dao martial artist, could not do it. Whether it was a Nirvana realm martial artist or a heavenly Dao martial artist, at most, their speed was very fast, and could even be compared to teleportation, but it was not a real teleportation. On this point, Longao was very clear in his heart and was very sure. "You actually recognize spatial teleportation? Kid, who exactly are you?" "Longao." He seemed to be at a loss. The burly man did not seem to know Longao. If it was a few years ago, it would be fine if he did not know Longao, but at this moment, Longao's several actions made the entire Sky Martial continent know a name, and that was Longao, a rising dark horse. "I don't know." Longao did not care, but asked, "I want to know, how do you know spatial teleportation?" Regarding this point, Longao really wanted to know. After so long, the burly man was the first person to recognize spatial teleportation. Who was the burly man? Before answering you, you have to answer a question of mine. Please ask. Are you from the reincarnation clan? My grass. Hearing the burly man's question, Longao cursed in his heart. He had never thought that the burly man would even know about the reincarnation clan. Where did the burly man come from? Not only did he know about Longao's teleportation, he even knew about the reincarnation clan. No. Longao still didn't know about his background. Whether or not he came from the reincarnation clan, whether or not he had reincarnated 100 times, it was still too early to say. "Brat, as long as you teach me the spatial teleportation, I will not pursue the matter of the divine beast Black Tortoise and your trespassing into the forbidden area. How about it?" He was not surprised at all. Longao was well aware of the allure of spatial teleportation. Not to mention the burly man, anyone who had seen the power of spatial teleportation would be tempted to obtain it. Longao was very clear that if he didn't have the ability to teleport, he probably wouldn't have survived until now. Spatial teleportation was his greatest trump card. "Even if I wanted to impart it to you, I'm afraid I can't." "Why?" Seemingly anxious, the burly man impatiently asked. Sneering inwardly, Longao didn't immediately answer. Instead, he asked, "Senior, I really want to know your identity." If it wasn't for the spatial teleportation, the burly man definitely wouldn't have said it. However, because of the spatial teleportation, Longao was very confident. He was very clear that as long as he didn't teach the spatial teleportation, the burly man wouldn't attack him. Spatial teleportation was his greatest trump card. Myriad Beast's ancestor. Myriad Beast's ancestor? The burly man in front of him was actually the Myriad Beast's ancestor? Longao really hadn't thought of this. However, after thinking about it, he understood. In the Myriad Beast sect, other than the Myriad Beast's ancestor, who else could seal the divine beast Black Tortoise? It was passed down from generation to generation. 10,000 years ago, many peerless geniuses had appeared in the Tianwu continent. Among them were the myriad beasts' ancestor, Long Tian, Zhen Tian, Tong Zun, and others. Amongst them, the myriad beasts' ancestor's talent and power were the greatest. Furthermore, he was known as the #1 expert beneath the heavenly Taos. He swept through all the Nirvana realm experts. Unfortunately, 10,000 years ago, for some unknown reason, those extremely strong cultivators of the celestial Qi dynasty all disappeared. Everyone was talking about how those people had already died. At that moment, Longao was finally certain that not only did the 10 super experts of the 10 directions not fall, but they were hiding in the dark to cultivate. As for the specific reason, as for what the reason was, it was unknown. Myriad beasts' ancestor, you really are the myriad beasts' ancestor. Brat, cut the crap. What I just said is still valid. As long as you teach me the spatial teleportation, not only will you be able to leave this place safely, but I can also help you break through your current realm. How about it? Ordinary people wouldn't be able to resist this temptation. However, Longao smiled. Sorry, I already said that I can't teach you the spatial teleportation. That's because I don't know how I got it. How am I supposed to teach it to you? You're courting death. The myriad beast's ancestor's face instantly darkened. As the ancestor of the myriad beast sect, and also known as the #1 person under the heavenly Tao, who dominated the Nirvana realm, when had anyone dared to treat him like this? It was simply intolerable. Before the myriad beast's ancestor could do anything, Longao already said, "Myriad beast's ancestor, there is no enmity between us. If the divine beast Xuanwu hadn't attacked me, I wouldn't have killed him. How about this? I definitely can't teach you the spatial teleportation. However, I have a treasure that I believe you'll definitely like. Just treat it as compensation for the divine beast Xuanwu. How about that?" The myriad beast's ancestor said with interest, "Let me see it." Longao wanted the myriad beast's ancestor to be careless. Because when the myriad beast's ancestor had just appeared, he had used some unknown power to interfere with the fluctuations of space in the cave. Even if he wanted to use the spatial teleportation to leave or enter the dragon seal space, it wasn't very possible. Just as expected. The myriad beast's ancestor was too confident because he didn't think that a kid who had just broken through to the Supreme Tao stage would be able to play any tricks in front of him. Because of this, the myriad beast's ancestor withdrew all of his aura and the entire cave returned to normal. The surrounding spatial fluctuations were no longer disturbed. Longao was delighted. At this point, he no longer had any scruples. No matter how powerful the other party was, as long as he wanted to, he could leave at any time. Myriad beast's ancestor, I'm sorry. Actually, I don't have any treasure or divine tool. I was just fooling you. However, you probably don't know that my relationship with the myriad beast sect isn't very good. How could I give it to you? Moreover, you wanted to kill me. By the way, I'll give you a word of advice. Your clothes aren't very good. You look no different from a beast. I suggest you change. Chapter 1420. Anger. Hearing Longao's words, the myriad beast's ancestor pounced on Longao like an enraged lion. And the result? As soon as he finished speaking, Longao's figure disappeared. That's right, he disappeared just like that. He disappeared right under the nose of the myriad beast's ancestor. Looking at the disappearing figure, the myriad beast's ancestor was dumbfounded. Is this real? The myriad beast's ancestor didn't know about Longao's situation, nor did he know that Longao had a spatial artifact. Otherwise, the myriad beast's ancestor wouldn't have been so careless and confident. Longao, I know you're still here. You won't escape. In the cave. There were roars all around, but Longao still didn't appear. As expected of the myriad beast's ancestor. Even Tong Zun, Zhen Tian, and the others are no match for the myriad beast's ancestor. Longao had an intuition that the myriad beast's ancestor's strength had already reached the limit of nirvana rebirth. As long as he obtained the power of origin, he believed that in less than 3 months, he would be able to refine the power of origin and break through the so-called peak of martial arts. The myriad beast's ancestor, the ancestor of all beasts. The myriad beast's ancestor claimed to be able to control all divine beasts in the world. Although it was an exaggeration, it definitely wasn't groundless. Longao was wary of the myriad beast's ancestor's strength. If he hadn't entered the dragon seal space, it would have been difficult for him to escape. As for how to leave, that was the biggest problem. The myriad beast's ancestor was guarding the cave. Unless the myriad beast's ancestor left the cave, he couldn't leave the dragon seal space and the cave. Longao didn't know how Bai Ling and the two little guys were doing. He was very worried. How could he leave the cave smoothly? Longao and the myriad beast's ancestor were in a deadlock. Myriad beast's cliff. Shifeng and the other two were still looking for Longao's traces, but they still couldn't find any trace of Longao's aura. Could it be that Longao had already left the myriad beast's cliff? Father. He waved his hand. Shichong of course knew what his son wanted to say, and before Shapotian could say anything, Shichong had already said, after this incident, I can almost say that Longao came to our WN Show sect this time for the heaven and earth spiritual vein, so I can be sure that Longao will not leave the WN Show sect casually. Even so, Shapotian still found it hard to believe that Longao was still in the sect. Since his father was so certain, he couldn't say anything more. Second brother, you and Potian stay here. Remember, once Longao appears, you must not act rashly and alert him. Father, where are you going? I'm going to take a look at the heaven and earth spirit vein. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that the Longao won't let this matter rest. The heaven and earth spirit vein was the most precious treasure of the WAN Show sect. In the entire WAN Show sect, apart from the WAN Show ancestor and Shichong, only Shifeng and Shapotian were allowed to enter. No one else was allowed to enter without permission, or they would be killed on the spot. Big brother, are you sure that Longao is at the heaven and earth spirit vein? Shifeng was very unhappy. The reason was simple. He had always been alone, while Shichong and Shapotian had split up. In other words, whether Longao appeared at the WN Show cliff or at the heaven and earth spirit vein, the two of them would definitely win. If he was lucky and Longao was at the WN Show cliff, then everything would be fine. Taking a step back, if Longao wasn't at the WN Show cliff, but at the heaven and earth spirit vein, would he still be able to obtain the Genling? Shifeng was almost certain that if his big brother really obtained the Genling, he wouldn't share it with him. After all, 2 people devouring the Genling was easier than 3 people devouring the Genling. How could Shichong not know what his second brother was thinking? Shichong sneered in his heart, but he wasn't a fool. He wouldn't fall out with his second brother at this time. He smiled and said, Second brother, you and I are brothers. I promise you now, if I can obtain the Genling, I will definitely share 1/3 with you. Without waiting for Shifeng to speak, Shichong continued, once the 3 of us devour the Genling and break through to the peak of the martial path, then in the Tianwu continent, who would be our opponent? Shifeng knew that he couldn't say anything more. Otherwise, they would definitely fall out. At that time, it wouldn't be good for anyone. Shichong left the WN Show cliff and headed for the heaven and earth spirit vein. Shifeng and Shifeng continued to stay at the WN Show cliff, hoping that they could split up and find Longao. Tianwu continent. Since the battle with the Dragon Clan, the Long family had been searching everywhere for Longao, but they still couldn't find Longao. Within the Long family's main hall, Long Tian, Long Di Tian, and Long Hang were extremely depressed. Ever since the battle with the Dragon Clan, the Long family and the Dragon Clan had lost all face. They had suffered disastrous losses. The Long family and the Dragon Clan had become the laughingstocks of the entire continent. Everyone was talking about them. Ancestor, we've already mobilized all the disciples to search for Longao. Unfortunately, we haven't found him yet. However, we've found the whereabouts of the Dragon Sect. Send people to destroy the Dragon Sect. Long Tian was delighted to hear that. However, he still wanted to find Longao the most, not the Dragon Sect. After all, even if they destroyed the Dragon Sect, it would be useless. The Long family and the Dragon Clan would lose face. The one who would suffer disastrous losses would be Longao, not the Dragon Sect. However, Since they couldn't find Longao, they could vent their anger by dealing with the dragon sect first. Ancestor, if we destroy the dragon sect, what if Longao doesn't appear and hides? What should we do? How could Long Tien not know about Di Tian and Long Hang's worries? He sneered and said, if it were anyone else, we wouldn't do this. We would leave the dragon sect to deal with Longao. Only Longao. I believe you already know his character. He can't hold back at all. If we destroy the dragon sect, Longao will definitely avenge the dragon sect. At that time, we'll catch a turtle in a jar and beat the dog. I want to see how Longao can escape. In Long Tien's opinion, the reason why Longao was able to leave so smoothly was because of his soul. If he didn't have his soul, would Longao still be able to leave? That was exactly the case. Long Tien was full of confidence. As long as Longao dared to enter the Dragon Clan or the Long family, then Longao would die without a doubt. Ancestor, then I'll personally lead people to the 9 provinces continent. Long Di Tien stood up with a resolute expression. As the head of the Long family, Longao had provoked him time and time again, causing him to lose face. If he didn't get revenge, how could he continue living in the martial heaven continent? Good. Di Tian, you and Long Hang will go together. Remember, no matter what happens, you have to destroy the dragon sect. After you destroy it, immediately bring everyone back. Don't stay in the 9 provinces continent. We'll catch a turtle in a jar. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.